Hey guys, tonight we slip into the dusty streets of ancient Sumer, where the air hums with chatter and the faint, yeasty tang of beer wafts from every corner. Picture yourself trudging through a moonlit market, sandals slapping against packed earth, as merchants hawk clay jugs brimming with frothy brew. This isn't just a drink, it's the lifeblood of a civilization older than the pyramids, where beer is money, medicine, and a gift to the gods. You're in Mesopotamia, around 3000 before Common Era, and honestly, you probably won't survive a week here without mastering the art of sipping through a straw to avoid the gritty bits. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always wild to see who's joining us across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in the heart of a Sumerian city, maybe Uruk or Lagash, where the night market pulses like a living thing. Torches flicker, casting shadows on mud brick stalls piled with barley, dates, and those iconic clay pots, sealed with reeds and promise. Beer isn't just a side hustle here. It's a cornerstone of life, as vital as bread or breath. Archaeologists have dug up tablets showing Sumerians paid wages in beer, traded it like gold, and even offered it to their gods to keep the cosmic wheels turning. One clay tablet from 3000 before Common Era lists daily beer rations for workers, 2 liters for laborers, 5 for big shots. That's not a typo, they drank like champs, and you're wondering how anyone stayed upright. The market's chaos wraps around you. A woman with coal-lined eyes barters a jug of beer for a basket of fish, her voice sharp but playful. Nearby, a man strums a lyre, half drunk, singing about a hero who probably didn't survive his last tavern brawl. You dodge a stray goat, cute, but it's eyeing your sandal like it's lunch. The smell hits you, sweat, dust, and that sour, bready scent of fermenting barley. It's not exactly a craft brewery vibe, but it's intoxicating in its own gritty way. Sumerians didn't mess with hops or fancy filters, their beer was raw, cloudy, and packed with sediment. You'd need a strong stomach and stronger patience to love it. Historians still argue whether this market beer was more luxury or necessity. Some say it was safer than river water, which could churn with mud, and worse, imagine dysentery as your daily commute. Others think beer was a social flex, a way to show off wealth or seal a deal. Either way, you're drawn to a stall where a brewer, face lined like a weathered map, pours a sample into a communal cup. You hesitate, that liquid looks like porridge with attitude. But the crowd's watching, and backing out now might mark you as the weird outsider who doesn't get Sumer. You take a sip, and it's tangy, thick, like drinking a loaf of bread that's had a rough week. Not bad, but you're already plotting how to dodge the next round. Here's the quirky bit. Some Sumerian beer jugs had tiny clay figurines baked into them, like ancient bottle caps with personality. Archaeologists found one shaped like a tiny goddess, maybe a nod to Ninkasi, the deity who supposedly taught humans to brew. Was it a charm for good fermentation or just a brewer's whimsy? You decide, as you weave through the crowd, past a kid selling reed straws, your lifeline for drinking without chewing. The market's alive, and you're part of it, a stranger in a world where beer isn't just a buzz. It's the glue holding this dusty, chaotic city together, one sip of the Sumerian night market behind, your sandals now caked with the dusty earth of this ancient city, Uruk, perhaps, or Lagash, where torchlight dances like a restless spirit. The air shifts as you tread down a narrow alley, the clamor of merchants and lyre-strumming drunks fading into a low hum. A new scent wraps around you, yeasty and warm, with a faint sour edge that reminds you of the market's communal beer cups, the ones you dodged after that first gritty sip. You're drawn to a squat mud brick building, its reed curtains swaying like a whispered invitation. This isn't just any place, it's a brewing house, a sacred space where beer isn't merely crafted but blessed, where clay pots hold more than barley, they cradle the hopes of a civilization. You're in 3000 before Common Era, and one false step here might tick off a god who doesn't take kindly to amateurs meddling with their favorite drink. Good luck surviving that divine hangover. You push aside the curtain and step inside, your eyes adjusting to the dim glow of oil lamps flickering on mud brick shelves. The room feels alive, heavy with the weight of ritual and the thick, bready aroma of fermenting mash. Shadows play across walls etched with cuneiform prayers, their wedge-shaped marks like secrets carved by starlight. At the center, a priest stands, his linen robe smudged with clay and barley dust, his face stern as he mutters incantations over a row of wide-mouthed pots. These aren't your everyday kitchen crocks, they're lahar, massive clay vessels, some so large you could curl up inside one for a nap, if you didn't mind waking up smelling like a brewery gone rogue. Each pot bubbles softly, a low, gurgling song that feels like the earth itself is breathing. You're struck by the reverence here, the sense that these pots aren't just tools but sacred artifacts, bridges to the divine. Archaeologists have unearthed these lahar at sites like Uruk in Nippur, dating back to 3500 BCE, their clay walls stained with the ghosts of ancient brews. These pots weren't churned out on some Mesopotamian assembly line, they were handcrafted, often decorated with intricate patterns or sealed with reed lids to keep out dust and nosy spirits. The mainstream fact is that these vessels were central to Sumerian brewing, used to ferment barley mash into a cloudy, tangy beer that fueled everything from temple rituals to tavern brawls. You watch the priest dip a reed into one pot, his movements deliberate, like a surgeon checking a patient's pulse. He tastes the brew, his brow furrowing, then nods, as if he's just convinced the goddess Ninkasi herself to sign off on this batch. You're half expecting him to high-five the pot, but Sumerians don't roll like that. The quirky tidbit hits you as you notice a small clay plug near the base of one pot, sealed tight with a dab of mud. Historians have puzzled over these holes, some say they were for draining sediment, keeping the beer from turning into a chewy sludge. Others whisper they were for sneaky sips during long rituals, a little divine loophole for priests who needed a buzz to keep chanting. You imagine a priest glancing around, then sneaking a quick slurp, only to be caught by a stern brewmaster who's seen it all. It's a reminder that even in 3000 before Common Era, humans were humans, always looking for a shortcut or a sneaky treat. You stifle a chuckle, but the priest's sharp glance makes you freeze. He's got the vibe of someone who'd write you up for giggling in sacred space, and you're not about to test his patience. The brewing process unfolds before you like a slow, sacred dance. You see a brewer, her hands caked with sticky mash, stirring a pot with a wooden paddle that's probably older than your entire family tree. She's focused, her movements precise, as if one wrong stir could sour the batch and bring down Ninkasi's wrath. The air is thick with the scent of wet barley, like a warm loaf of bread left out in the rain, mingled with something earthier, almost primal. You're close enough to feel the heat rising from the pots, a gentle warmth that makes your eyelids heavy. The Sumerians didn't have fancy thermometers or lab-grade yeast, they relied on instinct, experience, and a whole lot of prayer. The hymn to Ninkasi, a tablet from around 1800 BCE but rooted in older traditions, lays it out: soak the barley, mix it with date syrup, let it ferment, and sing to the mash like it's your cranky boss who needs sweet talking. You try picturing yourself following that recipe, but it's less: add a pinch of salt and more croon to the gods until the bubbles approve. Yeah, your homebrew dreams are officially toast. Historians still argue whether these rituals were about practical brewing or cosmic deal-making. Some say the priest's blessings were a proto-sanitary measure, a way to enforce cleanliness in a world where dirty water could turn your beer into a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Imagine sipping a brew that's half Tigris River muck. Suddenly, a priest's chant sounds like a 5-star health inspector. Others argue the Sumerians saw beer as a literal offering to the gods, a way to keep Ninkasi and her divine crew from flooding the fields or smiting the harvest. You're torn. The practical angle makes sense, but the way the priest's voice echoes, low and rhythmic, makes you wonder if he's channeling something bigger. Is he bargaining with the heavens or just making sure the brew doesn't flop? You're not brave enough to ask, especially since he's now eyeing you like you're a stray goat from the market who wandered in uninvited. You step closer to one of the pots, its clay surface cool under your fingertips despite the warmth inside. You peer into its depths, where the brew swirls, murky and alive, its surface dotted with tiny bubbles that pop like distant stars. The smell is overwhelming now, sour, bready, with a hint of something sweet, maybe dates or wild herbs. It's not exactly a craft IPA, but there's a raw honesty to it, like the Sumerians bottled their whole world in this pot: the river, the fields, the gods, the grit. You remember that market stall from earlier, where the brewer's sample looked like porridge with a vendetta. This is the same stuff, but here, in this hushed room, it feels different, almost holy. The brewer catches your gaze and smirks, her hand still kneading a fresh batch of mash. "Not for soft tongues," she says, her voice rough but warm, like she's daring you to prove you belong. Its tip worn smooth from countless sips. You hesitate, your modern sensibilities screaming about germs and sediment. Drinking unfiltered beer in a room where the floor is basically packed dirt? That's a gamble even the market's goats wouldn't take. But the room's quiet reverence pulls you in, the soft gurgle of the pots mingling with the priest's low chants. You slide the straw into the pot, careful not to disturb the surface, and take a tentative sip. It's thick, tangy, like liquid bread with a kick that lingers on your tongue. Not terrible, but you're pretty sure you just swallowed a grain or two. You force a smile, hoping it passes for gratitude, while the brewer chuckles again. "You'll live," she says, but her tone suggests she's seen plenty who didn't. The scene around you deepens, the lamplight softening the edges of the room until it feels like a cocoon of warmth and ritual. You notice more details now: a small altar in the corner, piled with barley stalks, and a tiny clay figurine, maybe Ninkasi herself, her arms raised as if to bless the pots. The priest moves to another vessel, his chants growing softer, almost hypnotic, like a lullaby for the beer. You wonder how many nights he's spent here, tending these pots, whispering to gods you'll never understand. The brewer, too, seems part of this rhythm, her hands moving with a grace that belies the sticky mess she's wrestling. You're an outsider, but for a moment, you feel the weight of this place, the way it binds craft and faith into something eternal. You glance back at the pots, their clay surfaces etched with faint spirals, like ripples frozen in time. Each one tells a story, of the hands that shaped it, the barley that filled it, the prayers that sealed it. You think of the market again, where beer was currency, but here, it's something more, a pact between humans and the divine, a promise that the world will keep turning. The priest's voice fades, and the brewer hums softly, a tune that feels older than the walls around you. You're tempted to stay, to sink into this moment, but the alley outside beckons, and you know there's more to see in this beer-soaked world. For now, you let the scent of fermenting barley linger, a reminder that in Sumer, even a humble pot can hold the weight of the house, its sacred pots and priestly chants now a warm memory, and the gritty dust of that Sumerian market still clings to your sandals like a stubborn souvenir. The night air brushes your face, cool and sharp, as you follow a winding path out of the city, Uruk, maybe, or Lake Ash, toward the sprawling barley fields that feed Sumer's beer obsession. It's 3000 before Common Era, and the stars above glitter like spilled coins, but you're not here for stargazing. You're about to dive into the backbreaking work of harvesting barley, the golden grain that turns into the frothy brew you smelled in those clay lahar. The air carries the dry, earthy scent of stalks and soil, and you're already dreading the sweat-soaked hours ahead. Let's be real, You're not built for this, and the Sumerians aren't handing out participation trophies for soft-handed city folk. The fields unfold before you, a sea of golden barley swaying under a dawn sky so clear it feels like it's mocking your lack of farming skills. The stalks rustle, their feathery heads whispering secrets about your inevitable failure. A grizzled farmer, his hands rough as sun-baked clay, thrusts a flint sickle into your palms. "Cut low, don't waste," he grunts, his eyes narrowing like he's already pegged you as the guy who'll ruin half the crop. The sickle's handle is worn smooth, but its blade looks like it could slice through your ego, and maybe your sandal if you're not careful. You nod, trying to channel some ancient farmer swagger, but your back's already whining, and you haven't even started. The Sumerians grew amaranth einkorn, ancient barley varieties, as confirmed by excavations at sites like Tel Aswad, dating to 3500 BCE. These grains were the lifeblood of their civilization, turned into bread, porridge, and the cloudy beer that fueled everything from temple rituals to market deals. You take a deep breath, the air thick with dust and the faint green tang of crushed stalks, and start cutting. The barley's tougher than it looks, each stalk fighting back like it knows you're an amateur. Your first swing is more enthusiastic than effective, sending a clump of grain flying into the dirt. A nearby worker, a woman with braided hair and a smirk, shakes her head. "City hands," she mutters, and you're pretty sure that's Sumerian for "you're hopeless." You try again, crouching lower, your thighs burning as you hack at the stalks. It's not exactly a serene farm-to-table moment, it's a full-body workout, and you're failing the audition. Your hands ache, a blister already bubbling on your thumb, and you're starting to think that Market Goat from Section 1 had the right idea: eat the sandal, skip the labor. The field buzzes with life, a symphony of workers moving in sync. Men, women, and even kids wield sickles with a grace you'll never touch, their blades flashing in the rising sun. They sing as they work, a low, rhythmic chant that weaves through the rustle of barley, its cadence pulling you along despite your clumsy swings. The sound is hypnotic, like a lullaby for the land, and for a moment, you forget the splinter you're pretty sure is now a permanent resident in your palm. Here's the quirky tidbit: some workers wear clay amulets tucked under their tunics, shaped like tiny barley stalks or crescent moons. Archaeologists found these at sites like Eridu, suggesting they were charms to coax a bountiful harvest, maybe a nod to Inanna, the goddess who keeps the fields fertile. You're tempted to barter for one, but with your luck, you trade your sickle and end up weeding by hand. The barley harvest is just the first step in Sumer's beer-making marathon, and you're learning it the hard way. After cutting, the stalks are gathered into bundles, tied with reed cords by kids who move faster than you ever will. You try to help, but your knots look like a toddler's art project, and a boy nearby giggles, his eyes bright with mischief. You stick out your tongue, earning a laugh, and decide kids are the same everywhere, even in 3000 before Common Era. The bundles are carted to a threshing floor, a flat patch of packed earth where workers beat the stalks with wooden flails to free the grain. You give it a go, swinging your flail like you're starring in a Sumerian epic. Spoiler, you're no Gilgamesh. Grain scatters, and a cloud of chaff sticks to your sweat-soaked tunic. The woman from earlier chuckles, tossing you a look that says, "Stick to sipping, not swinging." Next comes winnowing, where the threshed barley is tossed into the air, letting the breeze carry away the chaff while the heavier grain falls back to the basket. You watch a worker do it, her movements smooth as a dancer's, the grain landing neatly while the chaff drifts like golden snow. You try, and it's a disaster. Half the barley ends up in the dirt, and the other half in your hair. You shake it out, feeling like a human scarecrow, and the worker laughs, not unkindly, her hands still deftly sorting grain. "Practice," she says, but you're pretty sure she means give up. The grain that survives your fumble is destined for those sacred lahar from the brewing house, where it'll be mashed, fermented, and blessed into beer. You're starting to see why the Sumerians worshipped this stuff. It's a miracle anything makes it from field to pot. Historians still argue whether barley was grown more for beer or bread in ancient Sumer. Some point to texts like the hymn to Ninkasi, which glorifies beer, arguing it was a safer bet than river water. Imagine chugging Tigris sludge and praying you don't spend the next week hugging a clay pot for reasons unrelated to brewing. Others say bread was the staple, with beer as a bonus, since both used similar mashed grains. You're leaning toward beer, mostly because you're parched, and the sun's turning you into a walking raisin. You glance at the farmer, now chewing a barley stalk like it's a high-end cigar, his face weathered but calm. He tosses you a few raw grains, saying, "Eat." You pop one in your mouth, and it's like biting a pebble with ambition. No wonder they turned this into beer. Raw barley's about as appetizing as that market activity, bees darting between stalks, workers' chants blending with the creak of ox carts hauling grain. You notice irrigation ditches crisscrossing the land, their muddy banks littered with broken clay shards, cousins to the lahar you saw in Section 2. These channels, fed by the Tigris, are the arteries of Sumer's agriculture, a marvel of engineering that keeps the fields alive. You imagine the planning, priests reading omens, farmers digging under starlight, all to ensure the barley flows like the river itself. Your sickle slips, nearly nicking your sandal, and you decide cosmic omens are way above your skill set. The workers don't flinch, their faces etched with a quiet pride that makes your aching hands feel small. You spot a girl, maybe 10, bundling stalks with fingers nimbler than a weaver's, her braids swinging as she works. She catches you staring and sticks out her tongue, a universal kid move that pulls a laugh from you. You're no match for her, and you're okay with that. The sun climbs higher, painting the fields in harsh gold, and you're a sweaty mess, your tunic clinging like a second skin. The workers keep going, their sickles flashing, their chants unbroken. You collapse onto a pile of cut stalks, the prickly straw poking through your tunic, and someone hands you a clay cup of water. You sip, tasting the faint grit of river silt, and think back to the market's beer jugs and the brewing house's bubbling pots. Here, the barley is raw potential, a dusty dream waiting to be threshed, mashed, and transformed. The farmer claps your shoulder, his grip like a friendly boulder, and grunts, "Good enough." It's the highest praise you'll get, and you wear it like a badge, even as your blister throbs. The chant rises again, weaving through the wind, and you feel the pulse of this place, a civilization built on sweat, grain, and the promise of beer. You're exhausted, but there's a quiet thrill in knowing you've touched the roots of something eternal, even if your hands are begging for it from the barley fields, your hands stinging from that flint sickle and your tunic dusted with the gritty memory of Sumer's golden stalks. The sun's dipping low now, painting the sky over Uruk in hues of amber and rose, and you're trudging back toward the city, drawn by the faint, familiar scent of yeast and smoke. You're not headed for the market's chaos or the brewing house's sacred hush this time. Instead, you find yourself at a low-roofed hut, its mud brick walls glowing warm in the twilight. This is the domain of the brewmaster, the unsung hero who turns those hard-won grains into Sumer's beloved beer. It's 3000 before Common Era, and you're about to step into a smoky, sweaty world where craft meets grit. Fair warning, you're not ready for the heat, and that blister from the fields is about to stage a protest. You duck under a reed mat doorway, and the air hits you like a warm, damp hug, thick with the smell of fermenting barley, charred wood, and something faintly sweet, like overripe dates. The hut is cramped, lit by a single clay lamp that casts jittery shadows on the walls. At the center, a brewmaster, her face lined with soot and determination, stirs a bubbling lahar pot with a paddle that's seen better days. She's not some mystical sage, she's a worker, her arms muscled from years of wrestling mash, her eyes sharp enough to spot a lazy apprentice from across the room. You're an intruder here, and she gives you a look that says, "Don't touch anything, city slicker." You nod, keeping your hands firmly at your sides, remembering that market goat's judgy stare, same energy, scarier delivery. The brewmaster's craft is no joke. Archaeologists have pieced together Sumerian brewing from texts like the hymn to Ninkasi, dated around 1800 BCE but echoing practices from your time, 3000 before Common Era. The process starts with those barley grains you mangled in the fields, now malted, soaked, sprouted, and dried to unlock their sugars. You watch her grind the malted barley on a stone quern, her hands moving in a steady rhythm that makes your field blisters wince in sympathy. The ground grain is mixed with water and sometimes date syrup, forming a sticky mash that looks like the world's least appetizing oatmeal. She pours it into the lahar, where it'll ferment into beer, and you're struck by the sheer labor of it all. No fancy equipment, just muscle, heat, and a whole lot of hope. You edge closer, the pot's heat prickling your skin, and peer into the murky brew. It's bubbling like a grumpy volcano, and the smell, sour, bready, with a hint of something wild, makes your nose twitch. The quirky bit? Some brewmasters added crushed herbs or even breadcrumbs to the mix, maybe to tweak the flavor or just because yesterday's loaf was going stale. Excavations at sites like Gersa turned up pots with traces of these odd additives, leaving scholars scratching their heads. Was it a secret recipe or a clean-out-the-pantry move? You're betting on the latter, especially since the brewmaster's muttering something that sounds suspiciously like use it or lose it as she tosses in a handful of mystery crumbs. The hut's a sauna, and you're sweating through your tunic, wondering how anyone survives this gig without passing out. The brewmaster doesn't flinch, her paddle stirring with the precision of a metronome. She checks the mash's texture, scooping a bit with her fingers and squinting like she's reading a cuneiform tablet. You're impressed, but also a little terrified. She's got the vibe of someone who could brew beer and fend off a bandit with the same paddle. You imagine her in that market from Section 1, bartering her brew for fish or reeds, her no-nonsense glare shutting down any haggling. Here's a light chuckle for you. You're pretty sure if you tried to help, you'd spill the mash and end up with a paddle-shaped bruise as to whether Sumerian brewmasters were artisans or just glorified cooks. Some say they were revered, their skills honed over generations, especially since beer was a divine offering, like you saw in the brewing house's rituals. Others argue they were laborers, churning out brew under priestly oversight, their work valued but not celebrated. You're leaning toward artisan, watching this woman's focus. She's not just stirring, she's conducting a symphony of yeast and grain. But the priests from Section 2 probably had the final say, blessing her pots to keep Ninkasi happy. You wonder if she ever rolls her eyes at their chants, muttering, "Just let me do my job." The brewing process unfolds like a slow, sweaty ritual. After the mash ferments, it's strained through reed mats to catch the worst of the sediment. The worst is generous, since Sumerian beer was famously cloudy. You spot a stack of these mats, stained and fraying, and imagine the gritty sips you dodged in the market. The brewmaster adds water, adjusting the strength, and maybe a splash of date syrup for sweetness. You're curious but keep your distance. One wrong move, and you're the guy who ruined a week's worth of beer. She seals the pot with a clay lid, etched with a faint spiral that reminds you of the brewing house's sacred pots. The hut's walls are lined with more lahar, some waiting to be filled, others already fermenting, their soft gurgles blending with the crackle of the fire. You notice a small clay figurine on a shelf, shaped like a seated woman with a jug, Ninkasi, maybe, or just a brewer's lucky charm. It's a callback to those market jugs with goddess figurines, and you wonder if this one's meant to keep the beer from souring or the brewmaster from losing her cool. She catches you staring and smirks, wiping sweat from her brow. "Work, don't gawk," she says, and you laugh, caught red-handed. You're no help here, but you're soaking in the scene, the heat, the smells, the quiet pride in her movements. The fire pops, sending a spark onto the dirt floor, and you jump, earning another smirk. Okay, maybe you're not cut out for the brewmaster life, but you're starting to get why this hut is the heart of Sumer's beer culture. As twilight deepens outside, the hut glows with a cozy, if sweaty, warmth. You think back to the fields, where you hacked barley like a clumsy novice, and the brewing house, where priests turned pots into divine conduits. Here, it's all about craft, the gritty middle step that binds field to cup. The brewmaster hums softly, a tune that feels older than the city itself, and you feel the weight of this moment, a civilization built on barley, sweat, and the stubborn will to make something good. Your blister throbs, but you're hooked, ready to see where this beer goes next, even if it means braving another sip of that cloudy, chewy smoky hut. Your tunic still clinging to your skin from the heat, the sharp, bready scent of fermenting barley lingering like a stubborn guest. The twilight over Uruk has melted into a deep, velvety night, the sky above studded with stars that glitter like the barley grains you fumbled in the fields. Your sandals, caked with the dust of that chaotic market and the gritty fields, carry you toward the heart of the city, where the air hums with a rhythmic pulse, voices, laughter, and the faint clink of clay. It's 3000 before Common Era, and you're stumbling into a festival honoring Ninkasi, the Sumerian goddess of beer, whose name echoed in the brewing house's chants and the brewmaster's muttered prayers. The plaza ahead glows with torchlight, the air thick with roasted barley, spilled brew, and a sweet whiff of dates or honey, like a dessert you'll never taste. You're about to dive into a crowd that worships beer like it's the glue of the cosmos, and let's be honest, you're not ready for this chaos. One clumsy step, and you'll be the fool who spills the sacred jug, earning a glare from Ninkasi herself. Good luck sweet-talking your way out of that divine snub. The festival sprawls across a wide, mud-brick plaza, its edges softened by the flicker of oil lamps perched on low walls. You weave through a throng of Sumerians, merchants with bead-fringed tunics, farmers with hands still rough from the fields, and kids darting about, clutching reed straws like their tickets to the best show in town. The crowd's alive, their voices blending into a warm, buzzing hum that wraps around you like a blanket. You're suddenly aware of your own appearance, dusty, sweat-stained, with a blister from that sickle in Section 3 screaming for attention. You look like you've been wrestling goats, probably that same shifty one from the market in Section 1. A woman with coal-lined eyes, her linen skirt swaying, presses a chipped clay cup into your hands. "Drink to Ninkasi," she says, her smile a mix of challenge and warmth, like she's daring you to keep up. You grip the cup, its warmth seeping into your palms, and remember the market's gritty beer and the brewmaster's murky lahar. This brew's no microbrewery masterpiece, but it's the heart of this party, and you're not about to be the outsider who chokes on the first sip. You take a cautious sip, the beer's tangy, chewy kick hitting your tongue like a loaf of bread with a grudge. It's not terrible, but you're pretty sure you just swallowed a stray grain, a callback to the sediment you dodged in the brewing house. The crowd doesn't care, they're raising cups, laughing, their faces lit with a joy that makes the beer taste better. At the plaza's center, a low platform holds a massive lahar pot, its clay surface etched with spirals that shimmer in the torchlight, echoing the sacred pots you saw blessed in Section 2. A priest, his robe cleaner than the brewing house's smudged version, stands tall, raising a reed staff as he chants to Ninkasi. His voice cuts through the crowd's hum, deep and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The mainstream fact is that Ninkasi was central to Sumerian culture, her hymn, dated to 1800 BCE but rooted in your 3000 before Common Era world, serving as both a brewing recipe and a poetic ode. It describes her stirring the mash, her divine breath turning barley into liquid gold, and you're half expecting a golden statue to rise from the lahar. Instead, there's a clay figurine, a tiny woman with a jug, just like the market's bottle cap goddesses and the brewmaster's shelf charm. The quirky tidbit catches your eye as you spot revelers tossing barley grains into a fire pit, the flames crackling like tiny applause. Excavations at Uruk and other sites suggest these offerings were pleased to Ninkasi, thanks for a good brew or a prayer to avoid a sour batch. You picture a Sumerian muttering, "Last jug tasted like river mud, let's do better," as they sprinkle their grains. It's a light chuckle moment, imagining their earnest hope that a few charred kernels will sway a goddess's mood. You're tempted to toss some yourself, maybe to atone for your field fumbles or that time you nearly spilled the brewmaster's mash. A kid beats you to it, scattering a handful with a grin that's pure mischief, and you laugh, kids and goats, always stealing the spotlight in Sumer. The fire's heat brushes your face, mingling with the beer's sour tang on your lips, and you're starting to feel the festival's pull, a warmth that's more than just torches. Lyres twang, drums thump, and voices rise in a chaotic harmony. You spot farmers, maybe your field crew from Section 3, passing a communal lahar with reed straws, their faces softened by beer and camaraderie. It's a stark contrast to the market's bartering hustle, the brewing house's solemn prayers, or the brewmaster's sweaty focus. Here, beer's a unifier, binding priests, laborers, and even clumsy outsiders like you. Historians still argue whether these festivals were about divine worship or social bonding. Some say they were sacred duties, ensuring Ninkasi's favor so the Tigris didn't flood or the barley didn't wither. Imagine a dry season turning your beer supply into a distant dream. Others argue they were community glue, letting Sumerians laugh, bicker, and bond over shared sips. You're swaying toward the glue side, watching a merchant arm wrestle a farmer, both grinning through beer-stained teeth, their laughter louder than the lyres. You drift closer to the platform, dodging a dancer twirling a reed fan, her movements fluid, like the barley fields swaying in the breeze. Her fan catches the torchlight, casting fleeting shadows that dance across the crowd. The priest pours beer from the lahar into smaller jugs, passing them out as offerings, and you're handed one. Its clay is cool, the brew inside sloshing softly, and it feels like holding a piece of Sumer's soul, fields, prayers, and all. You sip through a straw, avoiding the sediment, and it's smoother than the brewmaster's batch, maybe because Ninkasi's got a front row seat. Or maybe you're just caught up in the moment. Here's another chuckle. You're gripping the jug like it's a sacred relic, because if you spill it, the crowd might sentence you to a week of threshing as punishment. You're not risking that, not after the field sickle fiasco. The festival's rhythm pulls you deeper, music, laughter, the clink of cups like a toast to survival. You spot a man, maybe a scribe, etching cuneiform on a clay tablet, perhaps tallying the night's offerings or noting the guy who just tripped over a jug, earning a roar of laughs. The crowd's energy is infectious, and you raise your jug, toasting Ninkasi, the fields you toiled in, the pots you saw blessed, and the brewmaster who didn't chuck her paddle at you. You think back to the market's bartering, the brewing house's chants, the field's sweaty grind, and the hut's smoky craft. Each moment led here, to a plaza where Sumerians celebrate their gods, their grit, and their love for this cloudy, chewy brew. The dancer spins past again, her fan brushing your arm, and you feel anchored, part of something ancient. Your blister throbs, but you're hooked, ready to sip and sway through this beer-soaked night, even if it means dodging another kid with a festival's glow. The torchlit plaza fading behind you as you clutch your clay jug, its beer's tangy kick lingering on your tongue. The night air feels cooler now, carrying you away from Uruk's buzzing crowd and back toward the quieter edges of the city. Your sandals, still gritty from the market, fields, and brewmaster's hut, crunch on a path that hugs the Tigris River, its waters glinting under a crescent moon. It's 3000 before Common Era, and you're about to learn how the Sumerians turned this muddy, unpredictable river into the secret ingredient for their beer. The air smells of damp earth and reeds, and you're bracing for a lesson in ancient ingenuity. Fair warning, you're not cut out for wrangling river water, and that blister from the fields is still whining louder than a market goat. You pause by the riverbank, where reeds sway like silent sentinels, their tips brushing the water's surface. The Tigris isn't the crystal stream you might have pictured, it's a murky beast, churning with silt and secrets, the kind of water you'd hesitate to dip a toe in, let alone drink. Yet, this is the lifeblood of Sumerian brewing, the magic that transforms the barley you harvested into the cloudy brew you sipped at the festival. You spot a brewer, her tunic damp from work, hauling a clay jug from the river's edge. She's not the brewmaster from the hut, but her hands are just as calloused, her focus just as sharp. "Water's tricky," she says, catching your curious stare. "Too much mud," and the beer fights back. You nod, hoping you look wiser than you feel, but you're already wondering how anyone makes beer from liquid that looks like it's plotting revenge. The process starts here, with water that's less refreshing and more survival challenge. Archaeologists know Sumerians relied on the Tigris and Euphrates for everything: irrigation, drinking, and brewing, based on texts and digs at sites like Lagash, dated to 3000 before Common Era. The rivers were vital, but they weren't clean. Silt, algae, and who knows what else made them a gamble. You watch the brewer pour her jug into a wide lahar pot, its clay surface etched with faint waves, a nod to the river itself. She lets the water sit, the sediment settling like a grumpy guest who's finally calmed down. This is the first step in brewing, and it's not as simple as turning on a tap. You're starting to appreciate the brewmaster's paddle-wielding grit from Section 4. She had to wrestle this stuff before even touching the barley. The quirky bit hits when you notice the brewer tossing a handful of crushed reeds into the pot. Excavations at sites like Eridu suggest Sumerians sometimes used reeds or date pits as makeshift filters, trapping the worst of the muck before fermentation. You imagine her muttering, "Take that, river gunk," as she sprinkles her reeds, and you stifle a chuckle. It's not exactly a Brita filter, but it's clever, and you're half tempted to applaud. She catches your grin and shakes her head, probably pegging you as the guy who'd spill the jug and blame the river. You're not wrong. Your track record with barley in Section 3 wasn't exactly heroic, and you're not about to test your luck where the magic happens, and you're learning it's less science and more art. The brewer adds malted barley, those grains you hacked in the fields, now sprouted and ground, along with a sticky mash from an older batch, like a sourdough starter for beer. The Tigris water, murky but settled, binds it all together. You lean closer, the pot's heat tickling your face, and watch the mix bubble, a slow, gurgling dance that smells like the brewing house's sacred pots. The brewer stirs with a reed paddle, her movements steady, like she's coaxing the river's spirit into the brew. You're struck by the patience of it all: no timers, no lab coats, just instinct and a river that's as much foe as friend. You're pretty sure if you tried this, you'd end up with a pot of angry soup and a very disappointed Ninkasi. Historians still argue whether Sumerian beer was safe to drink thanks to fermentation or just a lucky gamble. Some say the alcohol killed off enough bacteria to make it safer than raw river water. Imagine chugging Tigris muck and hoping for the best, like you dodged in the market. Others argue the beer was still risky, with wild yeasts and silt making every sip a roll of the dice. You're siding with the safe-ish camp, mostly because you're still standing after that festival sip, but the brewer's careful stirring makes you wonder if she's hedging her bets against the river's wrath. You're not brave enough to ask, especially since she's now glaring at a kid who's splashing too close to her pots. The riverbank hums with quiet activity, other brewers hauling jugs, a fisherman untangling nets, and a stray dog sniffing for scraps. You notice irrigation ditches branching off the Tigris, their muddy banks littered with clay shards, cousins to the lahar you've seen everywhere. These channels fed the fields you toiled in, and now they're feeding the beer you're watching take shape. It's a cycle, river to field to pot to festival, that ties Sumer together, and you're starting to feel its rhythm. The brewer seals her lahar with a clay lid, muttering something that might be a prayer or just a curse at the river's mud. You chuckle softly, earning a raised eyebrow, and decide to keep your distance. Here's a light joke. You're pretty sure if you spill her water, she'll make you filter the tigress with your tunic as punishment. The scene feels timeless, the river's soft gurgle blending with the brewer's low hum, a tune that echoes the festival's chants. You think back to the market's bartering, the brewing house's prayers, the field's sweaty grind, and the brewmaster's smoky hut. Each moment led here, to a riverbank where muddy water becomes the soul of Sumer's beer. You're no brewer, but you're hooked, caught in the slow, murky magic of a civilization that bets its joy on this unpredictable river. Your blister throbs, but you're ready to see where this brew goes next, even if it means braving another sip of that cloudy, tigress's murky edge. The brewer's clay jug and the river's soft gurgle now a fading echo as dawn creeps over Uruk, bathing the reeds in a gentle golden haze. Your sandals, still crusted with the dust of the market's bustle, the field's gritty toil, the brewmaster's smoky hut, and the festival's torchlit chaos, squish softly in the damp earth. The faint, sour tang of fermenting barley clings to your tunic, a stubborn reminder of the beer you sipped at Ninkasi's raucous celebration. Now, you're trailing a new brewer, her jug balanced confidently on her shoulder, toward a cluster of mud-brick taverns nestled near the city's fringes. It's 3000 before Common Era, and you're about to plunge into a rowdy world where Sumerians sip their cloudy, sediment-laden beer through reed straws, dodging the gritty bits that make every gulp a gamble. The air hums with dust, smoke, and the sharp, yeasty scent of spilled brew, and you're steeling yourself for the tavern's lively chaos. Let's be honest, you're not cut out for this scene, and that blister from the fields is whining louder than the market goat that eyed your sandal like a gourmet snack. You duck under a tattered reed mat into a low-roofed tavern, its mud-brick walls pocked with cuneiform scratches, maybe ancient bar tabs, crude Sumerian graffiti, or boasts about who outdrank whom last night. The room is a warm, smoky haze, lit by flickering oil lamps that cast jittery shadows across the packed dirt floor. Sumerians crowd around low, wobbly tables, their linen tunics stained with beer, sweat, and the occasional splash of date syrup, passing massive lahar pots that bristle with reed straws like porcupines in a pottery shop. The tavern keeper, a burly man with a beard flecked with barley husks and a scowl that could curdle milk, shoves a reed straw into your hand. "Sip, don't chew," he grunts, his voice rough as the tigress's silt. You nod, your mind flashing back to the market's gritty beer, the brewing house's sacred lahar, the festival's tangy toasts, and the river's murky contribution. This beer's no smoother, but it's the pulse of this place, and you're not about to be the outsider who gags on the first sip. You squeeze onto a bench beside a group of laborers, their faces etched with the same field-worn lines you saw in Section 3, their hands still rough from wielding sickles like the one that gave you that blister. You slide your straw into a communal lahar, its clay surface warm from countless hands, its brew swirling with a cloudy menace that dares you to dive in. You take a tentative sip, and the beer hits like a punch, thick, sour, like liquid bread that's been brooding in a bad mood. The straw does its job, filtering out the worst of the sediment, barley husks, maybe a stray reed fragment, or, gods forbid, a bit of tigress grit from Section 6. It's not exactly refreshing, but it's better than chewing your drink, and you're grateful for the Sumerian straw-sipping genius. Archaeological finds, like seals and reliefs from Ur dated to 3000 before Common Era, confirm that reed straws were essential for navigating the chunky chaos of their beer, cut fresh from the riverbanks you walked along. You watch the laborers lean over their pot, straws bobbing as they trade stories, their laughter loud enough to drown out the lyre player in the corner. One guy's straw slips, splashing beer across his tunic, and the table explodes in cheers, like he's just won a Sumerian drinking game. You chuckle softly, it's the ancient equivalent of flipping a cup in a frat house, and you're pretty sure these guys invented the vibe. Here's your first light joke. You're betting if you challenge them to a sip-off, you'll end up face down in a lahar, explaining to Ninkasi why you thought you could keep up. The tavern keeper catches your grin and tosses you a fresh straw, probably because your first one's bent like it lost a wrestling match with the pot. You swap it out, hoping it buys you some tavern cred, but his raised eyebrow suggests you're still the city slicker who nearly botched the barley harvest. The quirky tidbit lands when you spot a small clay token on the table, shaped like a miniature jug, its surface etched with a tiny cuneiform mark. Excavations at sites like Nippur reveal these tokens were used as drink vouchers, handed out as wages or bartered for beer, a kind of proto-currency for tavern tabs. You imagine a laborer sliding one across the table, muttering, "Better than hauling barley for you lot," his eyes glinting with the same pride you saw in the fields. You're tempted to snag one as a keepsake, a memento of this beer-soaked night, but the tavern keeper's glare is sharper than the brewmaster's paddle from Section 4. Stealing's a bad idea, especially after your less-than-stellar track record, fumbling in the fields, gawking in the brewing house, and nearly spilling a jug at the festival. Here's another chuckle. You're pretty sure if you pocket that token, you'll be scrubbing lahar pots until the Tigris runs dry, and your blister's already staging a full-on revolt. Drinking in this tavern is a communal ritual, a far cry from the brewing house's solemn chants, the festival's divine toasts, or the riverbank's muddy labor. You wedge yourself closer to the laborers, their chatter washing over you like the Tigris's current. A merchant joins the table, his beaded tunic clinking softly, and brags about a trade deal that sounds half-invented, his hands waving like he's conducting a lyre orchestra. He offers you a sip from his pot, and you oblige, sliding your straw into the lahar. This brew's a touch sweeter, maybe laced with the date syrup you saw in the brewmaster's hut, but it's still a chewy adventure that makes you grateful for the read. You're struck by the tavern's warmth, not just the smoky heat, but the camaraderie, the way beer turns a motley crew into temporary allies. It's a stark contrast to the market's bartering hustle, the field's sweaty grind, or the river's murky gamble. Historians still argue whether Sumerian taverns were social hubs or just places to escape reality. Some point to clay tablets describing taverns as meeting spots where deals were sealed, disputes settled, and stories swapped, like the market but with better drinks and fewer goats. Others argue they were outlets for blowing off steam, letting Sumerians forget the Tigris's floods, the field's endless toil, or the priest's lofty demands from Section 2. You're leaning toward hubs, watching the merchant haggle with a laborer over a jug, both laughing through their straws, their voices blending with the lyre's twang. The scene feels alive, a microcosm of Sumer where beer is the great equalizer, binding laborers, merchants, and even clumsy outsiders like you. Lyres strum, voices rise in heated debates, and a kid darts through the crowd, snatching a stray token before the tavern keeper's bellow chases him out. You spot cuneiform scratched into a wall, maybe a tally of drinks, a prayer to Ninkasi, or a boast about outdrinking the guy who just tripped over a jug, earning a roar of laughter. It's a callback to the festival's cuneiform tablet, the brewing house's sacred scripts, and the market's bartering bustle. Each moment, market, fields, brewing house, river, festival, and now this tavern, has led you here, to a smoky room where beer flows like the Tigris itself. Here's your final chuckle. You're clutching your straw like it's a sacred relic, because if you lose it, you're not diving into that lahar with your fingers, not after seeing the river's muddy secrets. The merchant claps your shoulder, his grip friendly but firm, and offers another sip, pulling you into a tale about a caravan that sounds more myth than fact. The beer's loosening tongues, and you're feeling the buzz, not just from the brew, but from the tavern's chaotic joy. A woman, maybe a brewer, joins the table, her hand stained like the brewmaster's, her laugh cutting through the din as she calls out the merchant's tall tale. Her straw bobs in the lahar, and you realize beer's more than a drink here, it's a language, a ritual, a reason to gather, just like the festival's toasts or the brewing house's prayers. You think back to the market's bartering, the field's sweat, the river's muck, the brewmaster's paddle, and Ninkasi's torchlit plaza. Each sip ties you to Sumer, to a civilization that pours its soul into these cloudy, chewy pots. Your blister throbs, but you're hooked, ready to brave another round, sediment and all, in this beer-soaked, straw-sipping tavern from Section 7, the chewy tang of Sumerian beer still coating your tongue, your reed straw tucked into your tunic like a badge of survival from that rowdy, straw-sipping chaos. The pre-dawn streets of Uruk wrap around you, cool and quiet, the air laced with the faint, earthy scent of river mud and barley dust, a lingering echo of the Tigris's murky banks and the fields you toiled in. Your sandals, crusted with the grit of the market's bustle, the field's sweaty grind, the brewing house's sacred hush, the brewmaster's smoky hut, the festival's torchlit fervor, and the tavern's beery haze, crunch softly on the packed earth. You're drawn to a new sound now, raucous laughter and the clink of clay jugs spilling from another tavern, this one louder, rowdier, its mud brick walls glowing with the promise of heated debates and sloshed brews. It's 3000 before Common Era, and you're about to dive into a Sumerian hotspot where beer fuels everything from philosophy to near fistfights. Let's be real, you're not ready for the noise, and that blister from the fields in Section 3 is throwing a tantrum louder than the market goat that eyed your sandal like a 5-star meal. You push through a tattered reed curtain, and the tavern's chaos hits you like a warm, smoky wave. The air is thick with the sour, yeasty tang of beer, mingled with sweat, charred wood, and a faint sweetness, maybe spilled date syrup or the ghost of a festival feast. Oil lamps flicker on mud brick shelves, their light casting jittery shadows that dance across walls pocked with cuneiform scratches, ancient bar tabs, boasts about out-drinking rivals, or maybe Sumerian equivalents of Gilgamesh was here. The room's packed, a lively throng of Sumerians crowded around rough-hewn tables, their linen tunics stained with beer, dust, and the occasional splash of bravado. Communal lahar pots reign supreme, their clay surfaces warm from countless hands, bristling with reed straws that bob like porcupines in a pottery market. A scribe, his clay tablet teetering on the table's edge, argues loudly with a merchant, both waving straws like they're conducting a chaotic orchestra. You're handed a chipped clay cup by a grinning tavern keeper, his tunic flecked with barley bits and his beard looking like it's been through a brewing accident. Drink or debate, he barks, his voice rough as the tigress's silt from Section 6. You choose drink, your mind flashing back to the market's gritty sips, the brewing house's sacred lahar, the festival's tangy toasts, the brewmaster's murky pot, the river's muddy gamble, and the last tavern's straw-sipping camaraderie. You're not about to be the outsider who chokes on this cloudy brew. You squeeze onto a creaky bench beside a farmer, his hands as rough as the sickle you fumbled in the fields, his face lined with the same sun-baked grit you saw in your fellow harvesters. He's mid-rant, proclaiming his barley crop outshines the merchants, his voice booming over the lyre player's twang in the corner. The merchant scoffs, his beaded tunic clinking as he gestures wildly, splashing beer across the table. You duck, narrowly avoiding the spray, and stifle a chuckle. Here's your first light joke. You're pretty sure if you get caught in this splash zone, you'll be scrubbing your tunic in the Tigris, and after seeing that river's muddy secrets, you'd rather wrestle that market goat than dive in. You sip your beer through a straw, wincing at its familiar chewy kick, thick, sour, like liquid bread that's been brooding since the festival. The straw filters out the worst of the sediment, barley husks, maybe a stray reed fragment, or, gods forbid, a bit of river grit, but it's still a gamble. You're grateful for the Sumerian straw-sipping savvy, a necessity for their cloudy brews, as confirmed by seals and reliefs from sites like Lagash, dated to 3000 before Common Era, showing drinkers hunched over lahar pots with reeds in hand as you spot a small clay seal on the table, stamped with a delicate barley stalk, its edges worn smooth from handling. Excavations at UR and other sites reveal these seals were used to mark lahar pots, ensuring no one tampered with the brew, an ancient hands-off label for tavern beer. You picture a Sumerian pressing the seal into clay, muttering, "Steal my jug," and Ninkasi herself will judge you, their eyes glinting with the same pride you saw in the brewmaster's hut. You're tempted to pocket the seal as a memento of this beery night, a tiny trophy to brag about surviving Sumer's taverns. But the tavern keeper's glare, sharper than the brewmaster's paddle or the brewer's no-nonsense stare from the riverbank, stops you cold. You're not risking a tavern ban, not after your less-than-stellar moments, fumbling barley in the fields, gawking in the brewing house, nearly spilling a jug at the festival, or dodging sediment in the last tavern. Here's another chuckle. You're betting if you swipe that seal, you'll be washing lahar pots until the tigress runs dry, and your blister's already begging for mercy. The tavern's debates are a gritty echo of the festival's dances, but less divine, more raw. The scribe, his stylus darting across his tablet, insists the tigress's recent flood is a sign of Ninkasi's favor, a blessing for the barley fields you toiled in. The farmer counters with a snort, claiming it's just bad luck and shoddy ditches, his hands gesturing like he's still threshing grain. You're pulled into the fray when the merchant, his eyes twinkling with beer-fueled mischief, asks your opinion. You mumble something vague about river mud, hoping it passes for wisdom, but they roar with laughter, clapping your shoulder like you're one of their own. You grin, your face warm from the beer and the tavern's glow, and realize this place is a microcosm of Sumer, chaotic, vibrant, bound by brew. Historians still argue whether taverns were intellectual hubs or just rowdy escapes. Some point to clay tablets, like those from Lagash, describing taverns as meeting spots where scribes, traders, and farmers hashed out politics, myths, and grudges, a boozier version of the market's bartering in Section 1. Others argue they were pressure valves, letting Sumerians vent about floods, taxes, or the priest's lofty chants from the brewing house. You're leaning toward hubs, watching the scribe sketch a cuneiform retort while the farmer downs another sip, both thriving in this loud, beery chaos, their straws bobbing like flags of camaraderie. You notice a woman at a nearby table, her hands stained with the same barley dust you saw on the brewer by the river and the brewmaster in her hut. She's jumped into a debate about barley prices, her voice sharp and confident, cutting through the din like a well-aimed reed. She's no stranger to this scene, her straw dancing in the lahar as she calls out the merchant's inflated claims, earning a round of laughs. You're struck by how beer sparks this room, not just fueling arguments, but forging bonds, turning strangers into allies for the night. The tavern keeper weaves through the crowd, refilling lahar pots with a practiced hand, his tunic brushing against tables littered with clay cups and spilled brew. His steady rhythm mirrors the brewer's careful stirring by the river, the brewmaster's paddle, and the festival's ritual toasts, tying this rowdy glow to every step of Sumer's beer-soaked journey. Here's your final chuckle. You're clutching your straw like it's a sacred relic, because if you lose it, you're not fishing sediment out of that lahar with your fingers, not after surviving the market, fields, brewing house, hut, river, festival, and now 2 taverns. The tavern pulses with life, a lyre player strums a jaunty tune, a poet slurs a half-baked ode to Ninkasi, and a kid sneaks a sip from an unguarded cup, dodging the tavern keeper's playful swat with a grin that reminds you of the festival's mischievous youngsters. You spot cuneiform etched into a wall, maybe a tally of drinks, a prayer to Ninkasi, or a boast about outdrinking the guy who just tripped over a jug, earning a roar of laughter that shakes the room. It's a callback to the festival's cuneiform tablets, the brewing house's sacred scripts, the market's bartering hustle, and the last tavern's wall scratches. You think back to the market's bartering, the field's sweaty grind, the brewing house's chants, the brewmaster's smoky craft, the river's muddy magic, the festival's divine toasts, and the last tavern's straw-sipping warmth. Each moment has led you here, to a tavern where beer turns arguments into art, where words and sips flow freer than the tigress itself. The merchant offers you another sip, his debate with the scribe now a friendly roast, their straws clashing like tiny swords. You join in, your straw bobbing in the lahar, the beer's chewy tang softened by the tavern's infectious energy. The woman at the table laughs again, her voice a bright thread in the room's chaotic tapestry, and you realize beer's more than a drink here. It's a catalyst, a ritual, a reason to gather, just like the festival's toasts, the brewing house's prayers, or the market's deals. Your blister throbs, a nagging reminder of your field struggles, but you're hooked, caught in the rowdy glow of a Sumerian night where beer fuels not just debates, but the pulse of a civilization. You lean back, straw in hand, ready to sip through another round, sediment and all, in this loud, lively tavern that feels like the heart of the tavern's rowdy glow, the echo of laughter and clinking lahar pots fading as Uruk's early morning air wraps around you, cool and sharp with the scent of river mud and distant barley fields. Your tunic's a mess, stained with beer and dust from the market, fields, brewing house, brewmaster's hut, festival, and 2 taverns, and your reed straw, your lifeline against that chewy sediment, is still tucked safely in your pocket. Your sandals crunch on a quiet street, leading you to a modest mud brick workshop where women, the unsung queens of Sumer's beer industry, rule the brewing game. It's 3000 before Common Era, and you're about to meet the female brewers who keep this city's beer flowing like the Tigris itself. Fair warning, you're not ready for their hustle, and that blister from the fields is still grumbling louder than the market goat you dodged way back when. You slip through a low doorway, the air inside warm with the familiar yeasty tang of fermenting barley, mingled with smoke and a hint of sweet dates. The workshop's cozy but bustling, lit by oil lamps that cast a soft glow on mud brick walls etched with faint cuneiform, maybe recipes or tallies of jugs. Women move with purpose, their hands stained with mash, stirring lahar pots, grinding barley, and hauling water jugs with a rhythm that puts your field flailing to shame. A brewer, her hair braided tightly, glances up from a bubbling pot and nods, her eyes sharp but kind. "Watch, don't touch," she says, her voice firm like the brewmaster's in Section 4. You nod, keeping your hands to yourself, remembering your clumsy moments in the fields, brewing house, and taverns. You're not about to mess up her brew and earn a one-way ticket to scrubbing pots. These women are the backbone of Sumer's beer industry, a fact backed by clay tablets from sites like you are, dated to 3000 before Common Era, which list female brewers running workshops and supplying taverns, temples, and markets. Brewing was women's domain, a respected craft that powered the city's economy and rituals. You watch the brewer stir her lahar with a reed paddle, her arms strong from years of this work, her focus unbroken even as another woman calls out a joke about a merchant's bad barter. The pot bubbles, its cloudy brew swirling like the Tigris's currents you saw in Section 6, and you're struck by the skill here, no fancy tools, just experience, muscle, and a knack for turning gritty barley into liquid gold. You're tempted to ask for a sip, but her glance says you'd better earn it first, and your field performance doesn't exactly scream Employee of the Month. The quirky bit hits when you notice a small clay charm hanging above a lahar, shaped like a tiny loaf. Excavations at sites like Nippur suggest these charms were tributes to Ninkasi, the beer goddess you toasted at the festival, believed to ensure a smooth brew. You imagine the brewer tying it up, muttering, "No sour batches today, please," and you stifle a chuckle. It's a light moment, picturing her bargaining with a goddess like she's haggling in the market from Section 1. You're half tempted to ask about the charm, but a younger brewer, her hands caked with mash, beats you to it, teasing the older woman about bribing Ninkasi again. They laugh, and you join in, though you keep it quiet. Your track record of spilling jugs and fumbling barley doesn't give you much room to joke. The workshop's a hive of activity, women grinding barley on stone querns, straining mash to reed mats, and sealing jugs with clay lids. You spot a stack of those mats, frayed like the ones in the brewmaster's hut, and remember the river's reed filters that tamed the Tigris's muck. The process here mirrors what you've seen: barley from the fields you harvested, water from the river, mash like the brewmaster's, and prayers like the brewing house's chants. But these women add something extra, a quiet authority, a sense that they're not just brewing but sustaining Sumer itself. Historians still argue whether female brewers were revered artisans or undervalued laborers. Some say they held power, managing workshops and supplying temples, their names etched on tablets like the scribes in Section 8. Others argue they were exploited, their work essential but overshadowed by priests and merchants. You're leaning toward artisans, watching the brewer's steady hands and sharp wit. She's no mere laborer, she's a maestro of mash. You edge closer to a lahar, its heat prickling your skin, and peer into its murky depths. The brew gurgles, alive with bubbles, and the smell, sour, bready, with a hint of dates, takes you back to the festival's toasts and the tavern's straw-sipping debates. The younger brewer catches you staring and smirks, handing you a reed straw. "Try it, field boy," she says, and you hesitate, your modern germ radar screaming. But her grin's infectious, and you slide the straw in, sipping the brew that's smoother than the taverns but still chewy enough to remind you of Sumer's no-filter vibe. Here's another chuckle. You're pretty sure if you choke on this, they'll make you grind barley for a week as penance, and your blister's already drafting a resignation workshop, a warm counterpoint to the tavern's rowdy shouts and the festival's divine chants. You notice a jug etched with a spiral, like the lahar at the festival, ready to be carted to the market or a tavern like the ones you've stumbled through. You think back to the market's bartering, the field's sweat, the brewing house's prayers, the brewmaster's paddle, the river's muck, the festival's glow, and the tavern's debates. Each step led here, to a workshop where women turn barley into beer, power, and pride. The brewer seals a jug, her hands steady, and you feel the weight of this moment, a civilization carried by these women, one lahar at a time. Your blister throbs, but you're hooked, ready to watch their craft unfold, even if it means dodging another cheeky jab from the women's bustling workshop. The warm hum of their lahar pots and the sharp, yeasty tang of fermenting barley still clinging to your senses like a stubborn guest. Uruk's sun-baked streets stretch before you, the early morning air sharp with the scent of river mud and the distant, dusty whisper of barley fields. Your tunic is a patchwork of Sumer's grit, stained with the dust of the market's chaotic bartering, the field's sweaty toil, the brewing house's sacred chants, the brewmaster's smoky hut, the festival's torchlit fervor, the tavern's rowdy debates, and the brewer's steady craft. Your reed straw, that trusty shield against the chewy sediment of Sumerian beer, stays tucked in your pocket, a quiet trophy from the tavern's straw-sipping chaos. Your sandals, worn thin from trudging this 3000 before Common Era city, crunch on a dusty trade road leading out of Uruk, where merchants and creaking ox carts haul clay jugs brimming with beer to far-off lands. You're about to join a caravan, balancing heavy lahar jugs and dodging the ever-looming threat of bandits, as Sumer's brew travels beyond the Tigris's murky embrace. Let's be honest, you're not built for this trek, and that blister from the fields in Section 3 is throwing a tantrum louder than the market goat that eyed your sandal like it was plotting a heist. The trade road unfurls ahead, a rutted, sun-scorched path flanked by swaying reeds and the occasional tamarisk tree, its sparse shade teasing you under a merciless Mesopotamian sun that feels like it's personally offended by your existence. You fall in step with a merchant, his linen tunic fringed with beads that clink softly, echoing the rhythmic chatter of the festival plaza's revelers in Section 5. He's guiding a lumbering ox cart piled high with lahar jugs, their clay surfaces sealed with reed cords and stamped with cuneiform marks, tiny wedges that proclaim their precious cargo to anyone literate enough to care. The air is thick with dry earth, the musky sweat of oxen, and the faint, sour whiff of beer seeping through the jugs, a scent that takes you back to the brewing house's bubbling pots, the brewmaster's smoky hut, and the tavern's hazy glow. "Keep up, city wanderer," the merchant says, his grin a mix of teasing and wariness, like he's weighing whether you'll slow the caravan or bolt at the first rustle in the reeds. You nod, trying to channel some ancient trader swagger, but your arms tremble as he hands you a lahar jug, its weight pressing into your palms like a silent dare. You grip it tightly, your blister protesting, and pray you don't become the guy who drops Sumer's finest export before it even leaves Uruk. Spoiler, your field fumbles in Section 3 don't exactly inspire confidence, and you're already sweating more than you did in the brewmaster's sauna-like hut. Sumerian trade routes were the lifeblood of the ancient world, pulsing with goods that tied cities like Uruk to distant lands, as evidenced by clay tablets from sites like Ebla, dated to 3000 before Common Era, which list beer as a key export alongside barley, textiles, and copper. These routes stretched far beyond the Tigris, reaching cities like Mari in the north and Susa in the east, carrying lahar jugs crafted by the women you met in a workshop to taverns, temples, and elite feasts across Mesopotamia. You glance at the ox cart, its jugs rattling with every rut in the road, their clay surfaces etched with spirals that remind you of the brewing house's sacred pots and the festival's towering lahar. The logistics are staggering, oxen plodding through dust, merchants bartering like they did in the market, and armed escorts scanning the horizon for bandits who'd happily swipe a jug or 10. You're struggling to carry one lahar, your arms already whining like they did when you hacked barley with that flint sickle. Imagine hauling dozens across deserts and river crossings. The merchant catches your strained expression and chuckles, tossing you a reed to chew, its tip bitter with the Tigris's faint echo from Section 6. Keeps the thirst at bay, he says, his voice warm but edged with the practicality you heard in the brewer's workshop. You munch it, the taste sharp and grassy, and decide it's no match for the festival's beer, but it's better than collapsing under the sun's relentless glare. The quirky tidbit lands as you spot a small clay amulet dangling from the cart's yoke, shaped like a miniature ox, its surface worn smooth from countless journeys. Excavations at trade sites like Tel Brak uncover these charms, believed to protect caravans from bandits, broken wheels, or bad omens, perhaps a nod to Inanna, the goddess who blessed the fields you toiled in and the journeys you're now part of. You picture the merchant tying it on before dawn, muttering, "No bandits, no shattered jugs, Inanna, please," his voice low like the brewing house priest's chants in Section 2. It's a light chuckle moment, imagining him bargaining with a goddess the same way he haggled over fish in the market, his beads clinking with every gesture. You're tempted to ask about the charm, maybe even touch it for luck, but a jolt from the cart nearly sends your lahar crashing to the ground, and you snap back to reality, clutching the jug like it's a sacred relic from the festival. Here's your first light joke. You're pretty sure if you drop this jug, the merchant will make you trek back to Uruk and face the brewer's wrath. Those women from Section 9 could probably bench press you and your lahar without breaking the pace. The oxen's hoofs kicking up dust clouds that sting your eyes and coat your tunic in a fresh layer of Sumerian grime. You pass other traders, their carts groaning under loads of wool, copper ingots, and more lahar jugs, their drivers swapping stories with the same animated flair you heard in the tavern's debates in Sections 7 and 8. One trader, his face weathered like the farmer you sat with in the fields, mentions a city called Dilmun, a far-off port where Sumerian beers traded for pearls and exotic woods, a luxury that makes your cloudy, chewy sip feel like liquid gold. You're struck by the reach of this brew, a journey that began in the fields you harvested, was blessed in the brewing house, stirred in the brewmaster's hut, filtered by the river's reeds, toasted at the festival, sipped in taverns, and crafted by the women's skilled hands. Now, it's crossing deserts and rivers, a liquid ambassador carrying Sumer's soul to distant lands. The merchant nudges you, pointing to a jug with a particularly intricate seal, his pride evident. "That one's for a Dilmun priest," he says, and you wonder if it'll be sipped in a temple or a tavern as rowdy as the ones you've stumbled through. Historians still argue whether beer was a trade staple or a luxury good in Sumer's far-reaching economy. Some point to tablets detailing bulk shipments, suggesting beer was as common as barley, sent to feed workers in cities like Mari, much like the rations you saw bartered in the market. Others argue it was a status symbol, reserved for elite feasts or temple offerings, where your gritty sip would have been a flex of wealth and divine favor, like the festival's sacred toasts to Ninkasi. You're leaning toward staple, given the sheer number of jugs rattling on this cart, their clay surfaces dusty but sturdy, ready to survive the road's jolts. But the merchant's gleaming grin, as he boasts of Dilmun's pearls, hints at luxury, a reminder of the market's bartering hustle and the tavern's lively debates. You shift the lahar in your arms, your muscles burning, and feel the weight of this trade, not just the jug, but the story it carries, from Uruk's muddy fields to foreign shores. You notice a guard pacing alongside the caravan, his bronze spear glinting in the sun, his eyes scanning the horizon for bandits who'd love to swipe a jug or ambush the whole cart. The threat feels real, and you're suddenly hyper-aware of your complete lack of combat skills. Your sickle fumbles in the fields and your near spill at the festival don't exactly scream hero of the trade road. Here's your second light joke. You're betting if bandits attack, you'll be the guy cowering behind a lahar, praying Ninkasi sends a divine timeout or at least a really distracting goat. The merchant senses your nerves, his chuckle warm as he claps your shoulder, his grip firm but friendly, like the farmers in the tavern. Beer's worth more than you, he teases, and you laugh, though you're half sure he's not kidding. His words echo the tavern keeper's gruff hospitality and the brewer's no-nonsense pride, tying this dusty road to every step of your Sumerian journey. The caravan pauses at a tamarisk grove, the oxen snorting as they graze on sparse grass, their breath puffing in the dry air. The merchant checks his jugs, running his fingers over the cuneiform seals, his movements careful, like the women sealing their lahar in the workshop. You set your jug down, wincing as your arms thank you, and wipe sweat from your brow, the dust sticking to your skin like a second tunic. The guard, his spear now propped against a tree, shares a sip from his own lahar, passing it with a reed straw that does its job against the sediment. You take a gulp, the beer's tangy, chewy kick a familiar friend, its taste carrying you back to the market's communal cups, the festival's toasts, the tavern's debates, and the workshop's smooth brew. The road stretches toward the horizon, a dusty ribbon linking Uruk to cities you'll never see, and you feel the pulse of this journey, not just the physical trek, but the story woven through every jug, from the field's sweat to the river's muck, the brewing house's chants, the brewmaster's paddle, the festival's glow, the tavern's rowdy warmth, and the women's craft. Here's your final light joke. You're clutching your lahar like it's a sacred offering, because if you drop it now, you'll be explaining yourself to every brewer, merchant, and probably Ninkasi herself, and your blister's already drafting a strongly worded complaint. You lean against the cart, the tamarisks shade a brief mercy, and watch the merchant barter with another trader, their voices rising like the tavern's debates, their hands gesturing over a jug seal. The guard sips again, his eyes still scanning the road, and you realize this caravan is Sumer in motion, a civilization carried by beer, sweat, and the stubborn will to keep moving. Your arms ache, your blister throbs, but you're hooked, caught in the dusty rhythm of a trade road where every jug tells a story, and you're one shaky step closer to delivering it to the trade road, the weight of that lahar jug still echoing in your aching arms, your tunic a grimy canvas painted with the dust of Uruk's market bustle, the field's sweaty grind, the brewing house's sacred chants, the brewmaster's smoky hut, the festival's torchlit fervor, the tavern's rowdy debates, the women's brewing workshop, and the caravan's sun-scorched ruts. The midday sun hammers down on Uruk's bustling streets, stirring up the familiar sense of river mud, barley dust, and the faint, sour tang of beer that's trailed you like a faithful shadow through every corner of this 3000 before Common Era city. Your reed straw, your hard-won shield against the chewy sediment of Sumerian brew, clings to your pocket, a quiet trophy from the tavern's straw-sipping chaos. You're headed toward a towering ziggurat now, its mud brick steps gleaming under the sun, where beer isn't just a drink but a sacred tax paid to keep the gods from throwing a cosmic tantrum. You're about to offer a jug to appease divine powers, and let's be real, you're not ready for the priest's piercing scrutiny, and that blister from the fields in Section 3 is whining louder than the market goat that sized up your sandal like it was plotting a gourmet heist. You climb the ziggurat's steep steps, each one a punishing reminder of your weary legs from hacking barley, trudging trade roads, and dodging tavern spills. The temple's mud brick walls rise above you, their whitewashed plaster shimmering in the heat, etched with cuneiform prayers that echo the brewing house's sacred scripts from Section 2 and the tavern's graffiti tallies. You reach the top, panting, and a sprawling courtyard opens before you, alive with the hum of priests, acolytes, and petitioners hauling clay jugs, sacks of barley, and even bleating lambs that sound suspiciously like your old market nemesis. The air is thick with the sweet burn of incense, the crackle of sacrificial smoke, and that unmistakable yeasty tang of beer, a scent that's woven through the market's bartering, the festival's toasts, the tavern's debates, and the women's workshop. A priest, his linen robe crisp but dusted with faint clay smudges, beckons you forward with a flick of his hand, his eyes scanning your lahar jug like he's auditing your entire existence. "For Ninkasi?" he asks, his voice low but sharp, cutting through the courtyard's buzz like the brewmaster's no-nonsense tone from Section 4. You nod, clutching the jug you carried from the caravan in Section 10, its clay surface warm from the sun's relentless glare, and pray you don't trip under his gaze. You're no temple regular, and your track record, fumbling barley in the fields, gawking in the brewing house, nearly spilling sacred jugs at the festival, and dodging sediment in taverns, doesn't exactly scream divinely approved. You step forward, the jug heavy in your arms, its weight a reminder of the trade road's dusty grind and the women brewers' careful craft in Section 9. Beer was a cornerstone of Sumerian temple offerings, a fact etched into clay tablets from sites like Uruk, dated to 3000 before Common Era, which detailed taxes paid in lahar jugs to appease gods like Ninkasi and ensure the cosmic order didn't crumble. These weren't optional tithes, they were non-negotiable dues to keep the Tigris flowing, the fields fertile, and Uruk safe from divine wrath. Think floods, famines, or a goddess's bad mood wiping out the harvest you sweated for in Section 3. You hand your jug to an acolyte, a young woman with kohl-lined eyes and a brisk efficiency that mirrors the river brewer's steady hands in Section 6. She inspects its cuneiform seal, a wedge-shaped mark like the trade road stamps or the tavern's clay tokens, and nods, her approval a small victory that eases the knot in your chest. You remember the women brewers' meticulous sealing in their workshop, their hands shaping the jugs that now sit on this altar, piled high with offerings, barley sacks, clusters of dates, and more lahar pots, their etched spirals catching the sunlight like the festival's towering pot in Section 5. You're struck by the scale of this ritual. It's not just devotion, it's an economy, with beer flowing from fields to temples, a sacred currency that mirrors the market's bartering hustle in Section 1. The quirky tidbit catches your attention as you spot a small clay tablet beside the altar, its surface scratched with a meticulous tally of jugs, each mark a record of divine dues. Excavations at sites like Nippur reveal that priests sometimes broke these tablets after offerings, perhaps to send the tax to the gods in a metaphysical bookkeeping trick or to prevent sneaky double-counting by crafty petitioners. You imagine a priest smashing one with a flourish, muttering, "Ninkasi's got her share, no refunds," his voice carrying the same dry wit you heard in the tavern's debates in Sections 7 and 8. It's a light chuckle moment, picturing divine accountants with a Sumerian flair, their clay ledgers more sacred than the market's trade tallies. You're tempted to ask the acolyte about the tablet, maybe sneak a peek at its wedges, but her brisk movements, checking seals, stacking jugs with the precision of the women brewers, remind you of the brewmaster's no-nonsense paddle-wielding vibe. Here's your first light joke. You're pretty sure if you spill this offering, the priests will sentence you to eternal barley threshing, and your blister's already drafting a plea for divine mercy, a quieter but no less vibrant echo of the festival's torchlit toasts and the tavern's rowdy glow. Priests chant in low, rhythmic tones, their voices weaving through the smoke like the brewing house's sacred prayers, while petitioners murmur softly, their hands clutching jugs or grain sacks, their faces etched with a mix of awe and obligation. You spot a merchant from the trade road, his beaded tunic clinking softly as he presents a lahar with a deep bow, his pride mirroring the swagger of the tavern debaters and the market's bartering merchants. The priest pours a splash of beer from a jug onto the altar, its tangy, bready scent rising with the incense, a fragrant nod to Ninkasi's festival toasts and the brewing house's bubbling pots. The act feels solemn, a bridge between the fields you harvested, the river's muddy magic, the brewmaster's craft, the women's workshop, and the trade road's dusty jugs, all converging here in a single, sacred pour. You're invited to sip from a communal lahar, its reed straws bobbing like the ones in the taverns, and you take a cautious gulp, the brew's chewy kick softened by the temple's reverent air. It's smoother than the tavern's gritty sips, perhaps because the gods are watching, or maybe the women brewers' skill shines through, their jugs crafted with a care that rivals the brewmaster's paddle strokes. Historians still argue whether these temple offerings were driven by spiritual devotion or shrewd social control. Some point to tablets describing heartfelt gifts to secure divine favor, much like the festival's barley tosses to Ninkasi or the brewing house's priestly blessings, ensuring the Tigris didn't flood or the fields didn't wither. Imagine a dry season turning your hard-won barley into a dusty memory. Others argue they were taxes leveraged by priests to fund temple operations, with beer as a tool to bind the masses to divine authority, not unlike the market's bartering power plays or the tavern's social glue. You're leaning toward devotion, caught in the courtyard's quiet reverence, the priest's chants wrapping around you like a warm, smoky blanket. But the priest's sharp eyes, scanning each jug like a tax collector, hint at control, a reminder of the market's haggling and the trade road's guarded caravans. You wonder if the merchant feels the same, his bow a mix of faith and obligation, his lahar a ticket to divine goodwill, or at least a clear conscience. You step back, watching the acolyte seal another jug with a clay lid, her hands moving with the same steady grace as the river brewer stirring her lahar or the women brewers shaping their pots. The altar's piled high now, a towering testament to Sumer's beer-driven faith, its offerings linking every step of your journey, the market's bartering, the field's sweat, the brewing house's chants, the brewmaster's smoky craft, the river's muddy magic, the festival's divine toasts, the tavern's rowdy debates, the women's workshop, and the trade road's dusty jugs. Here's your second light joke. You're clutching your reed straw like it's a holy relic, because if you lose it, you're not fishing sediment out of a sacred lahar, not after surviving the Tigris's gritty secrets, the tavern's chewy brews, and the trade road's jolting cart. The merchant catches your eye, offering a nod that feels like a small victory, a stranger woven into Sumer's intricate cycle of beer and belief. You linger in the courtyard, the priest's chants softening, the incense curling like a gentle caress. You notice a petitioner, maybe a farmer like the one you debated with in the tavern, placing a jug with a quiet prayer, his hands rough from the fields you toiled in. The acolyte moves to another lahar, her kohl-lined eyes focused, her movements a mirror of the women brewers' pride and the river brewers' care. You feel the weight of this moment, a civilization sustained by these offerings, each jug a thread in a tapestry that stretches from Uruk's muddy fields to the gods' lofty domain. Here's your final light joke. You're standing as still as a temple statue, because if you trip now, you'll be explaining yourself to Ninkasi, the priests, and probably every brewer in Uruk, and your blister's already begging for a divine vacation. Your arms ache, your blister throbs, but you're hooked, caught in the solemn rhythm of a temple where beer isn't just a tax but a promise, binding Sumer to the gods, one sacred sip at sun-baked steps, the temple's swirling incense and sacred lahar jug still lingering in your mind like a warm, smoky dream, your tunic now a battle-scarred relic etched with the grit of Uruk's bustling market, the field's sweaty toil, the brewing house's reverent chants, the brewmaster's smoky hut, the festival's torchlit fervor, the tavern's rowdy debates, the women's brewing workshop, the trade road's dusty ruts, and the temple's holy clay. The afternoon heat presses down on Uruk's lively streets, stirring up the familiar sense of river mud, barley dust, and the ever-present, sour tang of beer that's trailed you like a faithful companion through every dusty corner of this 3000 before Common Era city. Your reed straw, your trusty shield against the chewy sediment that makes Sumerian beer a gamble, clings to your pocket, a quiet trophy from the tavern's straw-sipping chaos and the festival's communal toasts. You're weaving through the crowd now, drawn to a scribe's workshop tucked in a quiet alley, where the soft scratch of reed style on clay tablets records beer rations for workers, etching Sumer's love for its brew into the annals of history. Let's be honest, you're not ready for the scribe's razor-sharp focus, and that blister from the fields in Section 3 is throwing a tantrum louder than the market goat that sized up your sandal like it was plotting a 5-star feast. You slip through a low, mud-brick doorway into a cool, dimly lit room, the air heavy with the earthy, slightly damp smell of wet clay, mingled with the faint, yeasty whiff of a nearby lahar pot that's probably fueling these scribes through their long hours. The workshop feels like a sanctuary compared to the market's clamor or the tavern's rowdy glow, its walls lined with shelves of drying clay tablets, their surfaces crisscrossed with cuneiform wedges that echo the brewing house's sacred scripts from Section 2 and the temple's offering tallies from Section 11. Scribes hunch over low, wooden tables, their reed styli scratching into soft clay with a rhythmic precision that puts your clumsy sickle swings in the fields to shame. Their fingers are dusted with the same gritty barley dust you hauled in Section 3, a reminder of the fields that feed this beer-soaked system. A senior scribe, his beard streaked with gray and his linen tunic smudged with clay, glances up from his tablet, his eyes narrowing with the same piercing scrutiny you felt under the temple priest's gaze. "Watch the tablets," he says, his voice crisp but not unkind, pointing you to a corner where you won't blunder into his meticulously crafted records. You nod, keeping your hands firmly at your sides, your string of mishaps, fumbling barley in the fields, gawking in the brewing house, nearly spilling jugs at the festival, dodging sediment in taverns, and wobbling on the trade road, fresh in your mind. You're no scholar, and the last thing you need is a cuneiform lecture for smudging a beer ration record that could outlast your entire family tree. You settle into the corner, your sandals leaving faint dust trails on the packed dirt floor, and watch the scribe work, his stylus carving wedge-shaped marks with a focus that rivals the women brewers' steady hands in Section 9 or the brewmaster's paddle strokes in Section 4. Scribes were the unsung architects of Sumer's bureaucracy, their clay tablets, unearthed at sites like Uruk and dated to 3000 before Common Era, detailing everything from temple offerings to trade deals, tavern tabs, and, most crucially, beer rations for workers. These records list daily allotments, 2 liters for laborers toiling in fields or canals, up to 5 for overseers barking orders, a system you glimpsed in the market's bartering bustle in Section 1, where beer was as good as currency. The scribe's tablet tracks rations for canal diggers, perhaps the ones maintaining the irrigation ditches you saw snaking through the fields near the Tigris in Section 6, their muddy banks littered with clay shards like the lahar pots you've seen everywhere. Each wedge he carves is a sip, a jug, a worker's daily fuel, and you're struck by the quiet power of these tablets. Beer isn't just consumed, it's counted, controlled, and etched into history, a testament to Sumer's obsession with its brew, from the fields to the festival, taverns, trade roads, and to your eye as you spot a small clay token on the table, shaped like a miniature jug, its surface etched with a tiny cuneiform mark, glinting faintly in the lamplight. Excavations at sites like Nippur reveal these tokens were early accounting tools, sometimes pressed into soft clay tablets to mark beer deliveries or rations before cuneiform became the standard. You picture a scribe pressing the token into clay, muttering, "1 jug, don't try to short me," his voice carrying the same dry wit you heard in the tavern's debates in Sections 7 and 8 or the market's haggling. It's a light chuckle moment, imagining Sumerian bookkeepers with a flair for tiny clay props, their tokens a precursor to the temple's tally tablets and the trade road's cuneiform seals. You're tempted to reach for the token, maybe roll it between your fingers to feel its weight, but the scribe's glance, sharper than the brewmaster's paddle or the river brewer's no-nonsense stare from Section 6, pins you in place. Here's your first light joke. You're pretty sure if you smudge one of these tablets, you'll be reassigned to digging canals with those workers, and your blister's already drafting a resignation letter to Ninkasi herself. The workshop hums with a quiet, focused energy, a stark contrast to the festival's torchlit toasts in Section 5 or the tavern's rowdy glow. The soft scratch of styli fills the air, mingling with the scribe's low murmurs as they compare tablets, their voices steady like the women brewers' banter in their workshop. A young apprentice, his tunic dusted with clay like the field worker's hands, smooths a tablet's edges with a wooden tool, his movements precise, echoing the river brewer's careful stirring or the acolyte's jug sealing in the temple. You spot a lahar pot in a corner, its brew likely a scribe's perk for long hours, its reed straws bobbing like the ones you wielded in the taverns and the temple's communal lahar. The scribe finishes his tablet, setting it carefully on a shelf to dry, its wedges gleaming like the cuneiform on the trade road's jug seals or the tavern's wall scratches. He starts another, this one tallying temple offerings, perhaps the very jugs you presented to Ninkasi, linking this workshop to the sacred courtyard's incense and chants. You're invited to sip from the communal lahar, sliding your straw in with a practiced ease you've earned through tavern trials. The brew's tangy, chewy kick is a familiar friend, smoother than the tavern's gritty sips, perhaps because it's fresh from the women's workshop or because the scribe's precision somehow refines even their beer. It's a taste that carries you back to the market's communal cups, the festival's toasts, the tavern's debates, the trade road's shared jug, and the temple's sacred pour. Historians still argue whether these ration records were about ensuring fairness or enforcing control over Sumer's labor force. Some point to tablets describing equitable allotments, suggesting a system designed to keep workers fed and content, much like the festival's communal spirit or the market's bartering warmth, where beer was a shared currency. Others argue they were tools of control, with priests and overseers using beer rations to keep laborers in line, a bureaucratic leash not unlike the temple's divine taxes or the market's power plays. You're leaning toward fairness, caught in the workshop's steady rhythm, the scribe's careful wedge is a testament to a system that values every sip. But the senior scribe's meticulous tallies, each mark carved with an almost priestly gravitas, hint at control, echoing the temple's sharp-eyed audits and the trade road's guarded caravans. You wonder if the canal diggers, sipping their 2 liters, feel the same, their labor recorded here as faithfully as the jugs you hauled. You lean closer, the tablet's soft clay catching the lamplight, its wedges forming a jug symbol that mirrors the trade road seals, the temple's tallies, and the tavern's tokens. The clay smells like the riverbank's mud, a sensory thread tying this workshop to the fields you harvested, the tigress's murky magic, the brewing house's chants, the brewmaster's smoky craft, the festival's glow, the tavern's debates, the women's workshop, the trade road's dust, and the temple's altar. Here's your second light joke. You're clutching your reed straw like it's a scribe's stylus, because if you lose it, you're not fishing sediment out of this lahar, not after surviving the tigress's gritty secrets, the tavern's chewy brews, the trade road's jolts, and the temple's holy scrutiny. The apprentice catches your eye, offering a shy nod, his fingers dusted with clay like the field workers or the women brewers' hands. You feel a flicker of connection, a stranger woven into Sumer's intricate tapestry of beer and bureaucracy, each tablet a snapshot of a civilization that counts its sips as carefully as its prayers. You linger in the workshop, the stylized soft scratches blending with the lahar's faint gurgle, the air cool and grounding after the temple's heat and the trade road's dust. You notice a scribe pause, sipping from the communal pot, his straw bobbing like yours in the taverns, his face softening for a moment before he returns to his tablet. The apprentice smooths another tablet, his hand steady, a quiet echo of the river brewers stirring, the women brewers sealing, or the acolytes' altar work. You feel the weight of this moment, a civilization sustained by these records, each wedge a thread in a story that stretches from Uruk's muddy fields to the god's lofty domain, from the market's bartering to the temple's taxes. Here's your final light joke. You're standing as still as a drawing tablet, because if you bump one now, you'll be explaining yourself to every scribe, brewer, and probably Ninkasi herself, and your blister's already begging for a bureaucratic pardon. Your arms ache, your blister throbs, but you're hooked, caught in the quiet rhythm of a workshop where beer isn't just sipped but scripted, binding Sumer's workers to its soul, one wedge at a time. Clay-scented workshop, the soft scratch of reed styli and the faint whiff of wet tablets fading into the warm hum of Uruk's sun-soaked streets. The late afternoon heat presses down like a heavy blanket, stirring up the familiar blend of river mud, barley dust, and the sour, yeasty tang of beer that's been your constant companion through this 3000 before Common Era city. Your tunic is a grimy chronicle of your journey, etched with the market's bustling grit, the field's sweaty toil, the brewing house's reverent chants, the brewmaster's smoky haze, the festival's torchlit fervor, the tavern's rowdy debates, the women's brewing workshop's steady craft, the trade road's dusty ruts, the temple's sacred clay, and the scribe's meticulous tallies. Your reed straw, your trusty shield against the chewy sediment that makes Sumerian beer a gamble, clings to your pocket, a quiet memento of tavern sips, temple toasts, and trade road gulps. You're drifting now, drawn to a quiet courtyard tucked behind a mud brick wall, where Sumerians gather to share lahar pots, savoring the tangy, sour brew that's loved despite its quirks. It's time to truly taste this beer, to feel its odd, gritty charm wrap around you like the festival's communal glow. Fair warning, you're not ready for its bold, sour kick, and that blister from the fields in Section 3 is throwing a tantrum louder than the market goat that sized up your sandal like it was plotting a gourmet heist. You settle onto a low, weathered bench in the courtyard, its mud brick walls softened by the dappled shade of a lone tamarisk tree, its leaves rustling gently like the reeds swaying by the tigress in Section 6. The air is warm, laced with the familiar yeasty scent of beer, mingled with a faint sweetness, perhaps dates or a hint of honey, that recalls the festival's torchlit feasts in Section 5. The courtyard feels like an oasis, its calm a stark contrast to the tavern's rowdy debates in Sections 7 and 8 or the temple's solemn chants in Section 11. A small group of Sumerians, laborers with field-worn hands, a merchant with clinking beads, and a woman with the stained fingers of a brewer, pass a lahar pot, their reed straws bobbing like the ones you wielded in taverns, temples, and trade road plazas. A laborer, his linen tunic dusted with the same barley grig you hauled in the fields, catches your eye and hands you a straw, his grin wide and mischievous, echoing the tavern keeper's gruff hospitality in Section 7. "Drink deep, wanderer," he says, his voice warm but carrying a daring edge, like he's betting you'll flinch at the brew's bite. You slide the straw into the lahar, its clay surface etched with delicate spirals that mirror the brewing house's sacred pots in Section 2 and the festival's towering offering, and brace yourself for the brew. You're no beer critic, and your string of missteps, fumbling barley in the fields, gawking in the brewing house, nearly spilling jugs at the festival, dodging sediment in taverns, wobbling on the trade road, and tiptoeing through the scribe's workshop, doesn't exactly scream connoisseur. But the courtyard's easy, communal vibe, like a quieter echo of the market's bartering warmth in Section 1, pulls you in, and you're ready to taste Sumer's soul. You take a cautious sip, and the beer hits like a bold, unapologetic guest, thick, sour, with a tangy kick that feels like liquid bread that's been brooding since the festival, its texture gritty enough to remind you of the tigress's muddy secrets from Section 6. It's not bad, just assertive, a brew that demands your attention with a tart, almost citrusy aftertaste that lingers on your tongue like a sassy comeback. The straw does its job, filtering out the worst of the sediment, barley husks, perhaps a stray reed fragment, or, gods forbid, a speck of river grit, but it's still a chewable adventure, a far cry from the smooth pints of your modern world. Sumerian beer was a dietary staple, its sour, tangy profile celebrated in texts like the hymn to Ninkasi, rooted in 3000 before Common Era practices and confirmed by chemical residues in pots from sites like Godin Teep, where traces of barley, dates, and wild yeasts paint a picture of a cloudy, low-alcohol brew that was more meal than drink. You swallow, managing a nod that you hope passes for appreciation, and the laborer laughs, clapping your shoulder with a grip that echoes the merchant's friendly jostle on the trade road in Section 10. "You'll love it by the third sip," he says, his eyes twinkling with a mix of jest and challenge, and you're not sure if he's teasing or issuing a dare to keep up with Sumer's beer catches your attention as a faint herbal note dances through the brew, maybe coriander, a hint of mint, or some mystery weed tossed in by a brewer with a flair for experimentation. Excavations at sites like Lake Ash reveal traces of herbs or even breadcrumbs in ancient pots, suggesting brewers sometimes added these to tweak flavor or simply clear out pantry scraps, leaving scholars scratching their heads. You picture a brewer from the women's workshop in Section 9, her hands stained like the ones you saw, shrugging as she sprinkles her mix, muttering, "Why waste good weeds when they'll brew just fine?" It's a light chuckle moment, imagining Sumerian brewers as ancient food recyclers, their practical creativity a cousin to the brewmaster's date syrup tweaks in Section 4 or the river brewer's reed filters in Section 6. You're tempted to ask the woman brewer across the lahar about the herbs, maybe get the secret to this brew's odd charm, but she's deep in conversation with the merchant, her straw dancing in the pot like a tiny flag of camaraderie. Here's your first light joke. You're pretty sure if you choke on this brew, they'll sentence you to brewing the next batch under the women brewer's watchful eyes, and your blister's already begging for a sick day after its field ordeal. The courtyard's calm wraps around you, a gentle counterpoint to the tavern's boisterous debates, the temple's solemn rituals, or the scribe's meticulous focus in Section 12. The laborer shares a story about a field mishap, his hands mimicking sickle swings that remind you of your own fumbling efforts, while the merchant counters with a tale of Dilmun's pearl markets, echoing the trade road's far-off dreams in Section 10. You sip again, the brew's sourness settling into a strange comfort, its tangy edge growing on you like a friend who's rough around the edges but fiercely loyal. Each sip feels like a thread weaving through your journey, the market's bartering cups, the brewing house's bubbling pots, the brewmaster's smoky mash, the river's muddy magic, the festival's toasts, the tavern's straw-sipping debates, the women's workshop craft, the trade road's dusty jugs, the temple's sacred pour, and the scribe's ration tallies. The brew's quirks, its chewy texture, its herbal zing mirror Sumer's own blend of grit and grace, a civilization that loves this beer despite, or maybe because of, its imperfections. Historians still argue whether Sumerians cherished this beer for its taste or embraced it out of necessity. Some point to texts and banquet scenes that celebrate its tangy kick as a cultural treasure, a mark of Sumerian identity savored in moments like the festival's communal toasts, the tavern's lively gatherings, or this courtyard's quiet sips, where every lahar is a shared ritual. Others argue it was a practical lifeline, safer than the Tigris's bacteria-laden water you glimpsed in Section 6 and packed with calories to fuel workers like the canal diggers recorded in the scribe's tablets, a necessity that doubled as a ration, as seen in the market's bartering and the temple's taxes. You're leaning toward taste, caught in the courtyard's warm, easy joy, the laborer's grin and the merchant's nod making the brew's sourness feel like a badge of belonging. But its gritty edge, a reminder of the river's muck and the field's dust, suggests necessity played a role, a practical choice dressed up in cultural pride. You're no expert, but you're starting to understand why Sumerians downed this stuff by the jug, their love for it as stubborn as the barley you harvested. You lean back against the bench, the tamarisk's shade of fleeting mercy, its leaves whispering like the festival's reed fans or the trade road's swaying reeds. The lahar passes again, its straws weaving a quiet ritual that feels as sacred as the temple's offerings, as lively as the tavern's debates, and as grounding as the women's workshop craft. The woman brewer, her hands stained like those you saw stirring lahar, offers you another sip, her smile warm, tying this moment to the brewmaster's smoky hut, the river brewer's steady labor, and the workshop's rhythmic hustle. You take it, the brew's sourness softening with each sip, or maybe you're just swept up in the courtyard's gentle buzz, a softer echo of the market's bartering warmth or the tavern's communal glow. Here's your second light joke. You're gripping your reed straw like it's a sacred talisman, because if you lose it, you're not diving into that lahar with your fingers, not after surviving the Tigris's gritty secrets, the tavern's chewy brews, the trade road's jolting cart, the temple's holy scrutiny, and the scribe's clay-dusted glare. The merchant catches your eye, his beaded tunic clinking softly as he nods, a gesture that feels like a small victory, a stranger woven into the fabric of this courtyard, this city, this civilization. The laborer shares another sip, his story now wandering to a canal-digging mishap, his hands gesturing like the scribe's stylus or the field worker's sickles. You feel the pulse of this moment, a microcosm of Sumer where beer binds laborers, merchants, brewers, and even clumsy outsiders like you. The brew's herbal zing dances on your tongue, a quirky nod to the brewer's creativity, the river's labor, and the field's sweat. You think back to the market's bartering, the brewing house's chants, the brewmaster's smoky craft, the river's muddy magic, the festival's glow, the tavern's debates, the women's workshop, the trade road's jugs, the temple's taxes, and the scribe's tablets. Each sip is a thread in Sumer's tapestry, a story of grit, craft, and love for this sour, chewy brew. Here's your final light joke. You're sipping like a seasoned Sumerian now, but if this brew gets any chewier, you'll need a second straw, and your blister's already demanding a union break. Your arms ache, your blister throbs, but you're hooked, caught in the quiet joy of a courtyard where Sumer's tangy beer warms hearts, one sour sip at a time. Shaded calm, the tangy warmth of that shared lahar pot and the laborer's easy grin still lingering like a soft echo in your mind as you step back into Uruk's bustling streets. The evening sun dips low, painting the mud brick walls in hues of amber and rose, casting long, lazy shadows that stretch across the dusty paths. The air hums with the familiar scents of river mud, barley dust, and the sour, yeasty tang of beer that's been your steadfast companion through every corner of this 3000 before Common Era city. Your tunic is a weathered tapestry, woven with the grit of the market's bartering bustle, the field's sweaty toil, the brewing house's reverent chants, the brewmaster's smoky haze, the festival's torchlit fervor, the tavern's rowdy debates, the women's brewing workshop's steady craft, the trade road's sun-scorched ruts, the temple's sacred clay, the scribe's clay-dusted tallies, and the courtyard's communal sips. Your reed straw, your trusty shield against the chewy sediment that makes Sumerian beer a gritty adventure, stays tucked safely in your pocket, a quiet relic of tavern debates, temple toasts, trade road gulps, and courtyard sips. You're wandering now, drawn to a lively plaza where Sumerians of all walks gather to share lahar pots, their lives stitched together by this sour, quirky brew. It's time to see how beer binds this society, from lofty kings to dusty laborers, in a way that's as vital as the tigress itself. Fair warning, you're not ready for the crowd's infectious energy, and that blister from the fields in Section 3 is throwing a tantrum louder than the market goat that sized up your sandal like it was plotting a 5-star feast. You ease into the plaza, its mud brick edges softened by the flicker of oil lamps perched on low walls, their golden glow gentler than the festival's blazing torches in Section 5 but brighter than the tavern's smoky haze in Sections 7 and 8. The air pulses with life, laughter spills from clustered groups, voices weave through the clink of clay cups, and the soft twang of a lyre drifts like a breeze, a vibrant echo of the market's bartering bustle in Section 1 or the courtyard's quiet warmth in Section 13. Sumerians of every stripe mingle here, laborers with hands rough from the fields you toiled in, merchants with beaded tunics that clink like the trade road traders in Section 10, women brewers with fingers stained like those in the workshop of Section 9, and even a scribe, his clay tablet clutched like a lifeline, his face etched with the same focus you saw in the workshop's cuneiform scratches in Section 12. At the plaza's heart sits a lahar pot, its clay surface worn from countless hands, its reed straws bobbing like the ones you've wielded across Uruk, in taverns, temples, trade road plazas, and courtyards. A merchant, his linen tunic fringed with beads that catch the lamplight, hands you a straw with a sly grin, his eyes twinkling with the same mischief you saw in the tavern debaters. "Join us, wanderer," he says, his voice warm but laced with a challenge, like he's testing whether you'll keep up with Sumer's beer-soaked camaraderie. You slide the straw into the lahar, its surface etched with delicate spirals that mirror the brewing house's sacred pots in Section 2 and the festival's towering offering, and take a sip, the brew sour, chewy kick hitting your tongue like a bold, familiar friend, its herbal zing a nod to the courtyard's tangy sips in Section 13. You're no beer sommelier, but after surviving the field's sickle fumbles, the tavern's gritty gulps, the trade road's dusty jolts, and the temple's holy scrutiny, you're ready to savor the brew that glues Sumer together. The sip settles, its tart, bready warmth spreading through you, and you nod, earning a grin from the merchant that feels like a small victory. "Not bad for a city stray," he says, his chuckle warm, and you laugh, a flicker of belonging sparking despite your string of missteps, botching barley in the fields, gawking in the brewing house, nearly spilling sacred jugs at the festival, wobbling with trade road jugs, and tiptoeing through the scribe's clay-dusted domain. Beer was a social cornerstone in Sumer, its role cemented in clay tablets and reliefs from sites like Uruk, dated to 3000 before Common Era, which depict communal drinking scenes in feasts, trade deals, and daily gatherings, binding kings in their palaces, priests in their temples, and laborers in dusty plazas like this one. You watch a laborer, his hands rough like those you worked beside in the fields, pass the lahar to the merchant, their laughter bridging their worlds in a way that echoes the courtyard's calm sips, the tavern's lively debates, and the festival's communal toasts to Ninkasi. The brew's texture, thick as the festival's sacred pour, gritty as the river's muddy magic in Section 6, tangy as the courtyard's herbal zing, ties this plaza to every step of your journey, from the market's bartering cups to the temple's altar offerings in Section 11. You sip again, the sourness softening with familiarity, its chewy edge a reminder of the women's workshop craft in Section 9, the brewmaster's smoky mash in Section 4, and the river brewer's steady labor by the Tigris. The merchant claps your shoulder, his grip friendly but firm, like the trade road traders or the tavern laborers, and you feel woven into this moment, a stranger finding a place in Sumer's beer-bound heart. The quirky tidbit catches your eye as you spot a kid, no older than the ones darting through the festival or sneaking tokens in the tavern, slipping his straw into an unguarded lahar for a quick sip before a woman brewer swats him away with a playful laugh, her stained hands flashing like those in the workshop. Excavations at sites like Eridu reveal traces of diluted beer in smaller pots, suggesting kids were sometimes given weakened brews as a safe alternative to the Tigris's bacteria-laden water. You glimpsed in Section 6, a quirky glimpse into Sumer's all-embracing beer culture. You picture a brewer mother shrugging, better than river muck for the little ones, her voice carrying the same practical wit you heard in the women's workshop or the river brewers muttered asides. It's a light chuckle moment, imagining Sumerian kids sipping their kiddie beer with the same gusto as their elders, their straws bobbing like tiny flags of inclusion. You're tempted to ask the brewer about it, maybe get the recipe for this diluted brew, but she's already laughing with the laborer, her straw dancing in the lahar like a badge of her craft. Here's your first light joke. You're pretty sure if you sneak a sip like that kid, the brewer will make you scrub lahar pots until Ninkasi herself calls it quits, and your blister's already begging for early retirement after its field, trade road, and tapestry, its threads weaving through every moment of your journey. Laborers swap tales of field mishaps, their hands mimicking sickle swings that remind you of your own fumbles in Section 3, their voices warm like the courtyard's storytelling. Merchants haggle over imaginary trade deals, their beads clinking with the same flair you saw on the trade road or in the market's bartering bustle, their stories echoing the Dilmun dreams of Section 10. Women brewers boast of their latest batches, their stained hands tying this plaza to the workshop's rhythmic hustle, the brewmaster's smoky hut, and the river brewer's steady labor. The scribe, his tablet clutched like a sacred relic, mutters about ration tallies, his words a quiet echo of the workshop's cuneiform scratches in Section 12 or the temple's offering records. The lahar passes, its straws weaving a ritual as vital as the temple's sacred pour, as lively as the tavern's debates, as grounding as the courtyard's calm, and as communal as the festival's toasts to Ninkasi. Beer flows freely, loosening tongues and forging bonds, a social glue that holds Sumer together. From the king's lavish feasts and palaces you'll never see to this dusty plaza where laborers, merchants, brewers, and scribes drink as equals. You sip again, the brew's sourness now a comfort, its herbal zing a quirky nod to the brewer's creativity, the river's labor, the field's sweat, and the workshop's craft. Historians still argue whether beer's social role in Sumer was about fostering unity or reinforcing hierarchical control. Some point to tablets and reliefs depicting shared drinking scenes, like this plaza's communal sips, the festival's torchlit toasts, or the courtyard's quiet gatherings, suggesting beer-leveled society, creating moments where kings, priests, laborers, and brewers drank as equals, their straws bobbing in unison. Others argue it was a tool of power, with priests controlling temple offerings as seen in Section 11, scribes tallying rations to manage workers as in Section 12, or kings doling out brews to secure loyalty, not unlike the market's bartering power plays or the trade road's guarded caravans. You're leaning toward unity, swept up in the plaza's warmth. The laborers grin, the merchants nod, and the brewers laugh, creating a sense of belonging that transcends rank. But the scribe's tablet, etched with precise wedges like those in the workshop, hints at control, a reminder of the temple's sharp-eyed audits, the trade roads' armed escorts, and the market's haggling dynamics. You wonder if the laborer feels the same, his sip a moment of freedom or a rationed reward, his place in Sumer's hierarchy softened by the brew's sour embrace. You lean against a mud brick wall, the oil lamp's glow casting your shadow long and wavering, a silent witness to the plaza's lively pulse. The lahar passes again, its straws weaving a ritual that feels as sacred as the temple's offerings, as spirited as the tavern's debates, as intimate as the courtyard's sips, and as enduring as the trade road's dusty jugs. The woman brewer, her hands stained like those stirring lahar in the workshop, offers you another sip, her smile warm and knowing, tying this moment to the brewmaster's smoky hut, the river brewer's steady labor, the women's workshop hustle, and the temple's altar pour. You take it, the brew's sourness softening with each sip, its chewy texture now a comfort, like a friend who's rough but fiercely loyal. Here's your second light joke. You're gripping your reed straw like it's Ninkasi's own scepter, because if you lose it, you're not diving into that lahar with your fingers, not after surviving the tigress's gritty secrets, the tavern's chewy brews, the trade road's jolting cart, the temple's holy scrutiny, the scribe's clay-dusted glare, and the courtyard's gritty sips. The laborer shares another sip, his field tail now wandering to a canal-digging mishap, his hands gesturing like the scribe's stylus, the field worker's sickles, or the merchant's haggling flair. The merchant counters with a story of a Dilman trade, his beads clinking, his voice bright with the same ambition you heard on the trade road. The brewer laughs, her straw bobbing, her voice cutting through the din like the women's banter in the workshop or the tavern's lively retorts. You feel the pulse of this plaza, a microcosm of Sumer where beer binds laborers, merchants, brewers, scribes, and even clumsy outsiders like you into a single, vibrant thread. You think back to the market's bartering hustle, the field's sweaty grind, the brewing house's chants, the brewmaster's smoky craft, the river's muddy magic, the festival's glow, the tavern's debates, the women's workshop, the trade road's jugs, the temple's taxes, the scribe's tablets, and the courtyard's sips. Each moment, each sip, is a thread in Sumer's tapestry, a story of grit, craft, and love for this sour, chewy brew that glues a civilization together. Here's your final light joke. You're sipping like a seasoned Sumerian now, but if this brew gets any chewier, you'll need a second straw and a map to navigate the sediment, and your blister's already demanding a royal pardon from Ninkasi herself. Your arms ache, your blister throbs, but you're hooked, caught in the lively glow of a plaza where Sumer's tangy beer weaves kings and laborers into one sour, from the plaza's lively hum, the shared lahar pot and the merchant's clinking beads fading into the soft glow of Uruk's twilight. The evening air is cool now, carrying the familiar scents of river mud, barley dust, and the sour tang of beer that's been your guide through this 3000 before Common Era city. Your tunic's a battered chronicle, market grit, field sweat, brewing house reverence, brewmaster's smoke, festival fervor, tavern chaos, women's workshop craft, trade road dust, temple sanctity, scribe's clay, courtyard sips, and plaza warmth, while your reed straw, your shield against chewy sediment, rests in your pocket, a relic of countless sips. You're standing now at Uruk's edge, overlooking the Tigris, its waters glinting under a crescent moon, reflecting on how Sumerian beer's legacy ripples through time. It's time to trace its lasting mark, from ancient pots to modern pints. Fair warning, you're not ready for the weight of this history, and that blister from Section 3 is still whining louder than the market goat that eyed your sandal like a prize. You lean against a tamarisk tree, its leaves whispering like the reeds by the Tigris in Section 6, and gaze at the river, its flow tying you to every step of your journey. The air's quiet, save for the distant hum of the city, laborers laughing, merchants bartering, brewers stirring lahar pots, a sound that's echoed from the market to the plaza. Sumerian beer wasn't just a drink, it was a foundation, as shown by tablets from sites like Uruk, dated to 3000 before Common Era, detailing its role in trade, religion, and daily life, a legacy that shaped brewing for millennia. You think of the fields you harvested, the brewing house's chants, the brewmaster's smoky hut, the festival's toasts, the tavern's debates, the women's workshop, the trade road's jugs, the temple's taxes, the scribe's tallies, the courtyard's sips, and the plaza's bonds. Each moment was a thread, and beer was the loom, weaving Sumer's story into a tapestry that still influences the brews you sip today, from craft IPAs to mass-market lagers. The quirky bit hits as you imagine a modern brewer stumbling on a Sumerian lahar, its cloudy brew a puzzle. Excavations at sites like Tel Botsi reveal Sumerians used wild yeasts, unlike today's controlled strains, creating flavors sour, bready, herbal, that modern craft brewers now chase in ancient ale experiments. You picture a hipster brewer sniffing a recreated Sumerian beer, muttering, "Needs more tigress funk," and chuckle softly. It's a light moment, bridging Uruk's gritty pots to today's taprooms. Here's a light joke. You're pretty sure if you offered that brewer your lahar sip, they'd call it authentic but pass on seconds. Your blister's already demanding a refund for this chewy adventure. Your gaze drifts to the city, its mud brick walls glowing faintly, and you see Sumer's beer in every corner, the market's bartering jugs, the brewing house's sacred lahar, the festival's ninkasi toasts, the tavern's straw-sipping debates, the women's workshop craft, the trade road's exports, the temple's taxes, the scribe's ration tablets, the courtyard's communal sips, and the plaza's social glue. Beer-bound Sumerians, kings, priests, laborers, brewers, in a way that echoes in today's pubs, where a pint still sparks laughter and bonds. Historians still argue whether Sumerian beer's legacy is cultural or practical. Some say it birthed brewing traditions, its recipes and rituals inspiring Mesopotamia's successors, from Babylonian Alash to Egyptian brews, and beyond, as seen in the hymn to Ninkasi. Others argue its impact was economic, fueling trade and labor systems, like the rations in Section 12 or the trade roads jugs, setting the stage for global beer markets. You're leaning toward cultural, feeling the plaza's warmth in your bones, but the scribe's meticulous tallies and the temple's taxes hint at economics, a practical root beneath the brew's soulful bloom. You sip from a stray lahar left by a passing laborer, its straw bobbing like those in the courtyard, taverns, and plaza. The brew's sour, chewy kick, herbal, gritty, alive, carries you back to the field's barley, the river's muck, the brewmaster's mash, the women's craft, and the temple's altar. It's not just a drink, it's Sumer's heartbeat, pulsing through time to every beer you've ever raised. Here's another chuckle. You're gripping your straw like it's a time machine, because if you lose it, you're not fishing sediment out, not after the tigress's secrets, tavern brews, trade road jolts, temple scrutiny, scribe's glare, and plaza sips. The laborers grin, the merchants nod, the brewers' stained hands, they linger, tying you to a civilization that poured its soul into these pots. Your blister throbs, but you're hooked, savoring the brew's legacy, ready to carry its story forward, one sour sip at a time. The tigress's gentle ripples catch the silver light, and you feel the weight of Sumer's story settle softly around you. The city's hum fades to a whisper, its mud brick walls blurring into the dusk, their edges softened like the lahar's chewy brew. You're no longer just a wanderer in Uruk's dusty streets, you're a thread in its tapestry, woven through fields, rivers, brewing houses, festivals, taverns, workshops, trade roads, temples, scribes' workshops, courtyards, and plazas. The beer in your hand, sour and gritty, is more than a drink, it's a bridge, connecting you to laborers who shared their straws, brewers who stirred with pride, merchants who traded jugs for pearls, and scribes who etched rations into eternity. Each sip carries their voices, their laughter, their grit, a legacy that flows through time, from Sumer's clay pots to the pints raised in distant lands. You close your eyes, the tamarisk's whisper blending with the river's murmur, and let the brew's tang fade on your tongue. The world grows quiet, the stars above Uruk twinkling like barley grains scattered across the night. You're home in this moment, wrapped in Sumer's warmth, drifting towards sleep with the gentle rhythm of a civilization that loved its beer, its people, and the stories they shared. Rest now, wanderer, Sumer's legacy lingers, as eternal as the tigress, as soft as this twilight's embrace.